Welcome everyone to Enforcing Heat Safety at USPS. Let's get started. My name is John Murphy. I'm a rank and file member of the NALC, City Carrier out of Naples, Florida, branch 4716. I was hired in July 2021. Also, I'm a co-host to the Next Generation Carriers podcast. I don't have to tell you that heat is a serious safety issue at USPS. Temperatures are hot, and with climate change, it's getting hotter. USPS management pays lip service to working safe while they constantly push workers to work faster. We need to practice collective action, not collective fear. We need to start writing grievance statements and empowering ourselves and coworkers to be brave and vocal. It takes bravery to speak up to our bosses and to be vocal so other coworkers know of it and hear of it. Your bravery is contagious. Our bosses, if they could, create standards on how many sips of water we could take in a given day if they could, but we're a union. It's up to us to enforce our contract and to protect each other. If you're not a member of the NALC, I urge you to join. Your voice matters. If you want this webinar in the toolkit, please check out our website, nextgenerationcarriers.com/heat, where everything we talked about today is available there, along with the PDF versions you can hand out to your coworkers. Also, if you're interested in being in these live streams, please subscribe to our monthly email list, nextgenerationcarriers.com/email. Enter your name and email, and then just click submit. Now to get us started, I'll pass this over to my co-host, Chris, so he can introduce himself and get this training started.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We appreciate the audience, everyone on who's listening for the first time on Facebook. This is a big deal for us. Hopefully, it goes according to plan. All right. So everyone here. So we're just asking everyone for their title, their position, what local, how many years you've been a carrier, and your podcast to give it a plug. So I'll start. My name is Chris Brasaemle. I'm the Legislative Political Director for Branch 18 in Southeastern Massachusetts. I've been a carrier for 8 years right now, and I'm from the Next Generation Carrier podcast. Up next is Corey, if anyone knows.
Hey, yeah, Corey Walton, Branch 4, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a city letter carrier. I'm the secretary of my local branch. I've been delivering mail since the early 90s as a city letter carrier, so about 32 years now, maybe 33. And I do host a podcast. It's called From A to Arbitration. And I've been doing that for about 3 years, and it's strictly educational. So,
Awesome. Thank you very much, Corey. Up next is Richie Ray.
Thank you for having me, everybody. My name is Richie Ray from Branch 41 Merge, Staten Island and Brooklyn, New York. I'm the second vice president. I have 25 years in the job. I started as a rural carrier for 1 year, so I know both sides a little bit. I have a podcast called Hot House with Richie Ray because I'm always in the hot house. I always get into trouble. And you can email me at hothousewithrichieray@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Up next is Alan and then Michael.
Hey everybody, my name is Alan Gegax. I am the host of the Classes of Mail podcast. I've been a city letter carrier for 19 years, and you can reach Classes of Mail at classesofmail@gmail.com.
All right. Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Brasaemle, and I'm from branch 2502 and currently running for president of this branch. No, I am not a shop steward anymore because I can only run for one position. I have been in the service at the post office since 2012. That's as a clerk and a carrier for 13 years. I'm currently a co-host with Alan Gegax on Classes of Mail, and my email is classesofmail@gmail.com. You can reach us there.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Up next is Joshua from Joshua, if you're up.
Hi, my name is Joshua Shrum from Roseville, Michigan. I'm the chief steward for the installation of Roseville. I work for branch 4374, and I'm the Roseville Wrecking Ball. I've been a letter carrier since December of 2021. My first day was Christmas Eve, and I got Parcels of Knowledge podcast. I started in May. You can check that out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Podbean.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Joshua. Up next is Mallory, and then Badmouth.
Hi, I'm I used to be Mallory Sutton. My name is about to be reverted to Mallory Eubanks, so I'm gonna go by that now soon. I am the co-host of the CCA Corner with Badmouth, and the website administrator for Arbitration. I've been carrying since 2020, so 5 years, but I became the steward for the two sister offices of my branch out of branch 383, Paducah, Kentucky in 2023. And I became the formal A rep for those two offices as well this year. And my email is mallory@formatearbitration.com.
All right, thank you. Badmouth.
Yo, it's Badmouth. I'm a rank and file loudmouth out of branch 226 in Fort Worth. IWW, BFN, and I I annoy Mallory and Cole on the CCA corner, but we try and cause some good educational trouble.
All right, thank you for that, Badmouth. Up next is James.
My name is James Capone. I'm branch president of branch 764 in Dedham, Massachusetts. Been carrying for 20 years, and I am co-host with Chris and John on Next Generation Carriers. Our email is nextgenerationcarriers@gmail.com.
All right, thank you, James. And then Jaimee.
Hi, I'm Jaimee Scala. I'm president of branch 1081 in Ames, Iowa. I started with the post office in 1998. I took a couple years off from carrying to clerk, so I've got about 24 years of carrying experience. My email is jaimere@gmail.com.
All right, thank you very much. And up next is Eric.
Eric Salazar, been carrying for about 10 years, branch president, branch 913 in Western Colorado. We cover a good chunk of Western Colorado from Vail to Montrose, and I'm located in Grand Junction. So thanks for having me, everybody.
Thank you very much.
We got one more left. We have Elliot. Elliot?
Hey, I'm Elliot Simmons. I come out of branch 957, Mandan, Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm just a city letter carrier, and I don't really use my email, but if you need to contact me, get on the From Arbitration Discord, and you can find me on there.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that. All right. So thank you, everyone. This is clearly the all-star team. Someone called it the Live Aid of Postal Podcasts. Thank you for that, Gus. If Queen shows up, we'll play some Bohemian Rhapsody out. That'll be great. We're really going to be. This is great. So, and personally, I just want to thank John. John is the one who really put this together. So, John, nice job on this, man. You did a great job, brother. All right. So, maybe more of a bit of a somber note. We have President Eric here to talk a little about what happened recently with his branch. So, Eric, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what happened.
Yeah. First off, I feel a little out of place going before Manny, but I will take it. So, unfortunately, on May 30th, we had a carrier of ours, Dan Workman, 59 years old, pass away on his route. Dan had been a carrier for about 9 years as a regular. He was a CCA for about 18 months prior to that. He'd been on the same city routes since he's made regular. So 9 years, 8.5 years, he'd been on City 8. It was a monster route. It was between 14 and 16 miles a day walking, depending on your mail volume. If you had a every door direct, it was a 16 mile walking route all day long. Dan, we find out later on that Dan went stationary at 413 on May 30th. He had parked at his last loop of his route for the day at 408. Started his loop, went stationary at 413. At 6:02, a CCA called the station manager phone or the station phone and asked, obviously, "Hey, I'm done. What do you need me to do?" The 204B that was closing at the time sent the CCA, who was our newest CCA, 22-year-old young woman, to go check on Dan. At some point, she had noticed that Dan had went stationary at, like I say, 4:13. This was at 6:02 p.m. When she arrived on the scene, she parked behind Dan's mattress. And just as she arrived there, she could see a Good Samaritan waving her down. When this was all happening, a sheriff's deputy pulled behind her. The CCA and the sheriff's deputy walked up upon Dan, who was laying in the yard. The CCA called back to the office at 6:08 to report what had happened. The paramedics arrived and were working on Dan. I arrived on scene about 6:30. The paramedics were still working on him. They pronounced Dan dead at 1929. In the email I got from the coroner, they did figure it was closer to the 4:13 when Dan went stationary when he passed. Dan was a diabetic. Dan, it was our first hot day in Grand Junction that day. The coroner report came back as saying the cause of death was natural. I'm no doctor. You're diabetic. Dan did suffer, looked like some hypertension after reading the autopsy reports. It's hard to say he didn't contribute to that factor. That was, like I say, our first hot day here in Western Colorado. It was 94 degrees that day. Today I got home. Actually, Dan's celebration of life was today, so I just arrived back from there, and I got home and it's 105 degrees at my house. So Dan was a good man. He was. You can set your watch to Dan. He that day he was due to be back at the office at 4:30. Roughly, that would have made his 8-hour day with his lunch. Dan did not put in a 3996 that day. At least it was not provided to me in any of my information requests. Dan, being diabetic, was really vigilant with letting management know when he had issues and anything like that. And that did not happen this day. So it was very unfortunate. It's been a very rough case that we've had here. I obviously was disturbed when I found out that he went stationary at 4:13, and not the fact. And they claim when I talked to the 204B that she had tried calling Dan. I requested the cell phone records from the we call it the brick, the office phone. That is yet to be provided, and they claim they sent RIMS messages. In the information I received back, there was no RIMS messages that day sent to Dan. The day prior, we did have a CCA here, a different CCA, who had a firearm pulled on him 11 o'clock in the morning while on a parking loop. Looking at the breadcrumbs and talking to the 204B, she noticed that the breadcrumb, everybody here has probably seen some breadcrumbs. When you're stationary for a while, it keeps pinging and licking in one spot. And when she talked to me, she's obviously upset that she thought, well, Dan looked like he was on a break going in somebody's house, like because it kept pinging in the front yard and everything like that. I didn't say anything to her at that point because she was pretty upset. But as we all know, that pinging is trying to find you. And I was a little disturbed that if you thought somebody was going into somebody's house on a route, we shouldn't be going into a private residence on our route. And then especially for the amount of time that was sent, and then to send a CCA to that location. They didn't even call the CCA. The CCA called in and then just happened to be on the route that was next to Dan's. Kind of disturbed me a little bit. We've dealt with some discipline here recently, not in this installation, but another installation that our branch represents. Discipline for stationary events, 6 minutes at an MBU, 8 minutes at a business, 2 minutes stationary, 2 minutes over the carrier's 10-minute break. And then this carrier laid in a yard for almost 2 hours before anybody found him. When I arrived on the scene, I thought maybe the house was vacant because the lawn was overgrown, and the way Dan had fallen, he was behind a overgrown bush and tree. So unless you walked up upon it, you wouldn't have really necessarily seen Dan. Dan was a hell of a mail carrier. He had 2 older brothers that had retired from the Postal Service. His brother Lauren carried for, I want to say 25, 30 plus years. Unfortunately, Lauren passed away a few years ago. His brother Steve Workman also was a carrier here, all both in Grand Junction. He just retired at the end of last year after 37 years of service. Dan was just a really good guy. I mean, he never, you can set your watch to Dan, return to the office. He'd do whatever management would ask him. He would call me quite often and complain. In fact, the weekend of Memorial Weekend was his long weekend, and he was upset that they were mandating him on or bringing him in on Saturday of his long weekend. And he chose not to go in that weekend. He went fishing and playing golf with his brothers. And the last conversation I had with Dan was the Thursday before he passed on that Friday. And I thought he was calling me to schedule that investigative interview for him not coming in to work on Saturday. And it was him to call and say, hey, these guys, they called me Saturday morning telling me I don't have to come into work, acting like they were doing a favor. So I was kind of happy that Dan took that last weekend after what happened and went and spent time with his brother and his sister and went fishing and playing golf. That those were two things that he enjoyed doing. And he was an avid outdoorsman, which we have here in Western Colorado, hunting, fishing, off-roading, golf. And Dan, I believe Manny's played golf over here in Redlands Mesa. I've heard that he really enjoyed the state convention we had a while back. Dan's death was real natural. Was it heat related? I'm not a doctor, but hard for me not to think that it wasn't a contributing factor to his health things. And my biggest thing is I feel like the neglect of management, what they did to Dan that day, to lie in that yard for almost 2 hours, and there wasn't a red flag. I mean, they spotted, we're at the bathroom for 15 minutes or at gas station, we get questioned. And then at some point they did realize that there was an issue and they send a CCA. Nobody, I mean, I don't know of many people that have been stationary for that length of time and it's not been a problem of some sort. And then, having a carrier that recently, just 24 hours prior, had a gun pulled on him. Was Dan mauled by a dog? Was he bleeding out in the yard? Was he being held hostage? I mean, if the 204B thought that the carrier, Dan was in a home, a little disturbing, bothered me, a little bit neglectful. And then I find out the Monday, like I say, he passed away on May 30th. That was a Friday. That Monday, I get a phone call from the lead clerk, and he says, hey, make sure you guys request Dan's employee alls. And I go, well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's, first thing you're doing for me in an information request is request an employee everything. And I go, why, what's up? And he goes, well, they clocked Dan out in 8 hours that day. We've always joked, hey, if you die on the route, they're going to clock you out, before. And they actually did it. They actually clocked him out at 4:30 in the afternoon. I was on scene. They were performing CPR on him till almost 7 o'clock. And I, saw him, covered the body. Needless to say, I sent a pretty nasty email to the managers in charge, and they went in and adjusted the time, clocked him out appropriately. But just because you didn't take the cookie out of the cookie jar doesn't mean that you didn't get caught with your hand in there. They made the excuse that it was an oversight. Well, how often do we have somebody die on a route like that? Not very often, And then that day too, we had no managers or supervisors that were actually on the clock that day show up. We had 3 that did. 2 of them were on annual leave and just came because they were concerned. And 1 just happened to live close by and came over. So they're not all. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. They're not all scumbags. Some are. The 2 that were on annual leave were there that were pretty upset, and they took time away from their families and ran over to see what was happening, did what was right. And obviously they were all at the celebration of life today. So that's our story here in Grand Junction. It's been kind of rough. A lot of angry carriers. People think Colorado, they think snow and mountains. Well, here in the Western Slope, we're in the high desert area. Like I say, it's 105 when I got home, at 5:15 tonight over here in Western Colorado. This heat's no joke. And that day that Dan happened to pass, while heat was not ruled a factor. It was our first hot day. Could it contributed to Dan's health problems? Maybe. I'm not a doctor, but Dan was he carried that around a long time. He knew how to take care of himself. He carried snacks with him. He carried water. It does look like he might have been dehydrated. On the electrolyte report of the autopsy, there's some numbers. I was trying to get some help before I came on here to confirm that. I didn't get that through a doctor, and I didn't want to speculate, but it looking like he may have been a little dehydrated. But I want to thank everybody for having me on and let me talk about Dan and the situation that happened here. So I appreciate everybody listening to me and our story, and I appreciate everybody taking time on a Sunday to be here and putting up a fight. And I'm going to let everybody go and enjoy the rest of the Zoom meeting. John, thank you very much for letting me come on and talk about Dan. So everybody have a great week. Stay safe out there and stay cool. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that, Eric. That was heavy. Jesus Christ, that's hard. Yeah. So moving on to someone who's and we're very honored to have here today. Manny Peralta, who is the NALC Director of Health and Safety. Couldn't think of a better lead-in. If there's one person who's looking out for us up at National, it's this man right here. So, Manny, I'll hand it over to you, brother.
Well, thank you very kindly for those words. I appreciate it. Before I go into what I wanted to cover, I want to touch on what Eric just shared. In the autopsy that Eric shared, I looked at it, and their doctor says there are still blood work items that have to be determined that may or may not go to the matter of heat. So that's still pending. With that, I am going to make an effort to share a screen. Let me know if I got the screen up. Let me know, guys. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the material that I put together and deal with, I ask all of you to get very familiar with the NALC website so you can navigate your brothers and sisters to the information that's available for them. Since 2012, I have been pretty aggressive fighting the matter of heat safety and trying to promote as much as we can and get the employer to do more. A lot of times we meet with just a lot of resistance because it's too costly. So beginning in 2015, as a result of a series of hearings with OSHA Review Commission, the Postal Service was forced into a corner to create a HIP, which is the Heat Illness Prevention Program. And so it has grown a little bit since 2015. 2018, they formalized it. 2020, they put it online, available for us. And during COVID, I noticed that our training material, as listed in their system, showed that I have not missed a single training session from Southern California, although I've been AWOL from my route for 40 years serving the union. And so I started writing about that in my articles, and I think Corey later started to charge with that and trying to force the company to do what they ought to do. So now, from my main page on the NALC, go to Workplace Issues, hover over Safety and Health. To the right, it opens up EAP, Extreme Weather and Pregnancy-Related Protectants. If you go to my safety page to begin with, here it lists the articles that we've written recently, and as you scroll downward, there's the link to the Extreme Heat page. So when you get to this page, there's a narrative about the information that's here, how we've been fighting with management, and I draw your attention to the third item at the bottom under Extreme Weather. And in this year's update, I communicated with the post office in the beginning of April, asking that they provide us with this year's HIP, because last year they changed things and never notified the NALC. So each of the items that the employer provided to us, you will find here. So if I click the red here sign, you'll receive, or you'll see the cover letter that came from management to the attention of the NALC. And then there's a mailer. Is that showing up on screen, guys? Okay, so the mailer, it's a 6-page PDF. I like to draw your attention immediately to the bottom because you don't often find the words "take breaks to cool down as needed." They themselves have put that in their formal information to us. So I want to make sure that we highlight that to all carriers. So the second item, which is a biggie, is a 9-page instructional piece. During my discussions with management, they refused to make this 9-page item a mandatory item for stand-up talks. They say, and they've written in their responses to me, that all of the material herein is covered by all of the other items. That's bullshit. So if you look at the first paragraph, it says this written program documents the procedure necessary to comply with the required elements of the Postal Service's heat illness prevention program. Then look at the next line. This document will be reviewed annually to ensure effectiveness and compliance. Copies of this document are available to employees upon request. When I wrote my article in May's Postal Record, I am asking each of you to tell the carriers in your jurisdictions, go up and ask the supervisor for a copy of that 9-page heat illness prevention program so that everybody has their copy of it and management can't get away with shortcutting it because they didn't want to do it in the stand-up talk. But if you go through here, there are obviously the symptoms and this and that and the other, but there's also emergency planning and responses, engineering and administrative controls. It's literally all the information that your supervisors are required to learn. If they don't learn it, we run into a problem. I'll get back to that in a moment. Going back now to the third item is a stand-up talk number 2501. This is the annual refresher that they'll be using every year. Make sure that they properly use that. And anybody who says they can't get their hands on the heat training material, it's on my page. It's been there since April. It's there for you all to use. It's there for you to direct people to. The fourth item is a series of questions that they concocted. They never sat down with me. They came up with these questions on their own. So you're going to find typos and errors, but the essence of it is pretty solid information. So the real world on the front line versus the fantasy world at headquarters, they're given the right information. We have to make sure that it's properly implemented in the field. They're given the information for you to take extra breaks as needed to cool down, and your supervisors are beating up on you. When they do that, you got to grieve it. You got to grieve the hell out of it. You got to press it hard. Now, I ask you to make certain that we do one of two things. Either A, we approach supervisors in a conversation, protesting the retaliation against employees that need the extra time, or we turn in a 1767. Then we can go straight to Formal A. I don't want to get into any procedural violations where we lose grievances because we bypassed the requirement to speak with them. Make sure you take that step. Then the next thing is I prepared a memo that I sent out to the business agents by email on the afternoon of April the 28th, and I asked them to pass that on to all branches. Check with your branch presidents. If you haven't received this document, reach out to the NBA, or it's right here for you. The next document is by memo dated the 28th of April. I'm sorry, I'm repeating the same one, my bad. The next one, on May 7th, the Postal Service responded to inquiries that I had posed to them based on the material as I read it, where I was trying to get them to agree to do the 9-page HIP, and they refused to. And then my communication to the field advising everybody of what we should do. These pieces are all there for you. The bottom line is read the material, understand the material, make sure that management at every single installation has trained every single employee and that the supervisors themselves know how to deal with it. Now, we've had some problems in the past that has required us to suggest what needs to be done in terms of management's behavior. Here's OSHA citations relating to heat safety. These 5 citations are the ones that survived the challenge before the OSHA Review Commission, the OSHRC. What's important, I think, is this citation out of Des Moines, Iowa, was issued back in 2015. It took a while to get to trial. When it got to trial, the judge overturned it. After the judge overturned it, it was appealed to the OSHA Review Commission. The OSHA Review Commission revived a portion of it. The portion that it revived was the supervisor in Des Moines, Iowa, had not been trained. So when he or she got the phone call from a distressed carrier on the street, they didn't know what to do. So they had them drive back to the office. And that carrier describes during her testimony that she was throwing up out the window on her drive back to the office. And the OSHA Review Commission found that supervisor should have been trained and wasn't trained, although the company has a process. Since that trial and since that review by the full commission, this citation is citable. It doesn't, quotes, become precedent setting in any office other than Des Moines, Iowa, but it can be used to support your grievances over your idiot supervisors not being trained to protect you from the heat. So I think the most important thing that I can cover in the few minutes we got is read all the material, dissect the material, deal with it, and make sure that all of our carriers are aware of it. Now, I want to make one comment, and this is on M1860. If you remember M1860, it was the settlement between the Postal Service, OSHA, and the NALC over what happened in Independence, Missouri on the death of John Watzlawick on July the 24th of 2012. If you read this document, it says, while this agreement applies solely to Independence, Missouri, too many people have misapplied the intent of that settlement. When President Rolando settled that with management, the intent was they withdraw their challenge in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, leaving an agreement that the employer does have to have a safety program. So if you read that passage, the parties recognize that heat-based abatement is an essential element of on-the-job safety for city carriers in all locations where city carriers are exposed to excessive heat. So use that only to prove by settlement that every place that we're exposed to the heat, they have to have a HIP. So that's an Article 14 and Article 15 citable basis. And so with that, I open to any questions if you have any.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to hold for questions until the end. But Manny, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way they can contact you?
I have a secret email that's on my website that's called Peralta@NALC.org.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. At the end, we'll have, I'm sure we have plenty of questions, and we'll, if anyone knows that secret code, you hear to hear first from us here. All right, so thank you very much. All right, Mom's
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have some summer tips and tricks from Jaimee. If Jaimee would like to talk a little bit about how he's been going around, maybe give us some advice on how we can survive this summer, literally.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hi. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on. My name is Jaimee Scala. I'm working in Ames, Iowa. I'm the branch president here of 1081. I've got about 24 years of carrying mail, a couple years of clerking. We have lots of humidity here in Iowa. So yeah, we deal with the heat and the winter. So some of my tips in dealing with the heat are I just went to the pretty basic stuff, what I do every day. And after a while, it just becomes habit. You just do it every day. It's like brushing your teeth. Make sure you get your sunscreen on. There's an awesome Banana Boat has a cooling sport sunscreen that you can use. Use that. It's a sport one, so you can, but you still do need to reapply that throughout your day. You're going to sweat it all off. And don't forget your ears and your face. Make sure you have a breathable hat. I have it's a fishing shirt I got from Sam's Club. I am not afraid to wear men's clothes. And it was on sale. So it was great. It's lightweight and I wear it under my polo. So it's got long sleeves and it even has a hood. So I can wear that instead of the hat some days. Make sure your clothes are loose fitting. Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's just for comfort and it helps you out throughout the day to cool off a little bit more. Undergarments that wick moisture or stay cooling. There's a lot of good materials out there now that are a lot easier to use and helpful, make you a little more comfortable. Gold Bond has a cooling powder or a baby powder for chafing. I use baby powder in my shoes about every night because they get all stinky. But anyway, I've freed the fresh washcloth or something, and you can put that frozen washcloth in a baggie and leave it in your cooler, and then you can use it throughout the day. Put it at your pulse points. If you need to put one near your heart, you can stick one there and hold it there for a while and cool off. One of the guys that trained me a long time ago, that was one of the tips he told me was after you wash your hands, make sure you wash your hands with hot water, get rid of your germs, but then run cool water over your wrists for a while, and that's a great way to cool off yourself for a little bit. Wet your hair. I like to wet my hair when I get a break. A couple years ago, I did an undercut. I've got a lot of hair, so it's nice to get some of that hair off the back of your neck. Aging definitely affects how your body responds in the heat. So make sure with your medications. I was lucky enough this year to start getting hot flashes, and that was fabulous. I'm kidding. But there's ways to work through that. I've noticed that for hot flashes, instead of drinking the ice water, I just drink some cool stuff. Yeah, and never turn down any water if a customer offers you a drink, or even if it's something you don't like. I mean, I'm not a LaCroix fan, but if somebody offers me a cold LaCroix, I'll take it and, like I say, put it on my wrist for a while or the back of my neck. Make sure you're avoiding alcohol and caffeine. I know Richie Ray is going to be sad, but he shouldn't be drinking that much coffee. He's going to be out in the heat. You got to, what I try to do, because I like still having my Diet Coke in the evening, I'll try to, or a glass of beer or whatever you want to have. I try to make sure that whatever I'm taking in for alcohol, I equal that with water. So I'm not behind, on my dehydration, waking up in the morning to go to work. So Liquid IV, Gatorade, vitamin water, Circle are great for people who don't like water or the taste of it. However, you do just need some plain water. I found out this year that drinking straight Gatorade all day can make you feel not great, so don't do that. Just make sure you're filling your cup of water throughout the day and keep drinking it. If you load a relay, you should be sipping. Yeah, make sure you take your breaks in the shade, simple stuff like that. For sure, don't let bully management you into skipping your breaks. And if you feel any heat illness symptoms at all, call 911 or someone. I'd rather err on the side of calling 911 and not needing them than the other way around. Everybody be safe out there, and thanks for having me on. I hope this helps somebody. If you have any questions, give me an email. Have a good night. Thanks.
Awesome. And Jaimee, what's your email address?
It is jaimere@gmail.com.
All right, there you are, folks. Thank you very much for that, Jaimee. All right, so right now we're going to move on to the questions and answers for a lot of us. So we're going to be asking all the our all-star crew, our live aid, if you will, of podcasters. So It'll be, I know, Badmouth. I'm excited too. All right. So, Badmouth and I will be just hitting off these questions. And, Badmouth, you can serve first.
Hell yes. All right. So first off, I want to echo something Jaimee said. We just had someone die in Dallas, like within a week of the anniversary of Eugene Gates. Like, I'm tired of angry crying over this shit. If you have a question, if you are thinking to yourself, should I call 911 or should I just try to tough it out? If you have to spend more than 3 or 4 beats on that question, call 911. Call 911, dude. Like, you're gonna get a free ride. You don't got to pay for that ride. Because I know the healthcare system in this country is great. Go capitalism. And with that, I'll start asking questions. Mr. Gegax.
Yo.
Friend, buddy, you are in a very hot spot. This question is, well, it doesn't say who the question is from, so I'll just ask it. So our air conditioning in our office has been broken for weeks now. What can the union do about that, friend?
So there are procedures in place where you can get issues like this addressed. The first thing that you should probably do is have you and your fellow carriers fill out Form 1767, the report or notification, the safety form, because that paper requires a response from management where they have to say what it is they're doing to address the problem. And that paper comes in multiple copies. Some of those copies get sent up to higher levels where they're going to see if the supervisor says, oh, I'm just ignoring the problem. Issues that are brought to management's attention on the 1767 are supposed to be addressed right away. You should get an answer back by the end of the day of what management is doing to address that problem. But there are other avenues that you can take. So the 1767 is your foundation that shows, yes, we've brought this to management's attention. Yes, they know that it's a problem and they're not doing anything about it. Beyond that, I actually learned from my custodian, who is our de facto building manager, that there is an escalation process right now for air conditioning related issues, that they can take it directly to higher levels of the maintenance system, and it's supposed to get kicked right to the front of the line to get addressed. So that should be happening. And if you don't get satisfaction there, then hopefully your union president can talk to somebody higher up in the post office, because obviously this has to be addressed. It can't go on. And frankly, if they still don't do anything about it, go directly to OSHA.
This is Manny. Can I add to that?
Please.
Sure.
If you look at the document I refer to, the engineering controls, right here, the bullet point that I have highlighted, an escalation process is put in place to prioritize all requests for HVAC repairs and temporary abatements. So far, in every situation where we have addressed that stuff, the employer has responded promptly. Most recently, last week in New Jersey, out of Branch 38, they put temporary air conditioning in the facility the next day. So use their own administrative controls to assert this is what they've committed to, and it's not just to keep OSHA off their back.
All right. Motion to let Manny jump in whenever he wants on this. All right. Second and passed. All right. We're all in favor. Congratulations, Manny. Whatever after that you talk, just go. You're ready. This is awesome. All right.
Yeah. If Papa Peralta wants to just hop in on this shit, like, I think everyone's happy about that.
Right. If we got Michael Jordan here, he's not going to be handing out towels. All right. He's going to be up there shooting three. All right. So that's it. We got Jordan here with us tonight. All right. Next question for Richie Ray. And also, these are questions that were actually real questions that we dug up from CCA. So this is where they're all from. This is the question. Question for Richie. Is there a standard temperature for USPS? Past few days, the air conditioning was turned down and we were all sweating like animals. Rumor has it, management thinks we will race to get to the street if it's hot. Total assholes.
Well, they are assholes, so I don't think we're going to debate that. I did some research on this, and OSHA does have some specific standards requiring temperatures of the office is the range of 68 degrees to 76 degrees. However, it does not the guidelines does not apply to all facilities, but I got a story to tell you. It's really nothing really written in stone. Maybe Manny could correct me after I'm done, but I do got a story. I got a station in one of my installations here at Branch 41 that the air conditioning has been broken for 12 years. And what they do is they bring in portable air conditioning in every year, and they do it in June. For some reason this year, they just were not doing it. While we were at the New York State Convention, somebody, one of the carriers, called OSHA themselves, didn't give their name, and filed a complaint. And OSHA asked for an investigation at safety in the district, and the very next day they put portable air conditioning in the facility. So the bottom line is, if it's too hot in these offices, to file a complaint with OSHA. It does work. We see it work. That's the bottom line. Okay, if it's 105 degrees outside, it's going to be 110 inside without air conditioning. It's common sense here. I know the post office don't have common sense, but OSHA works. My experience. Look, there's times they do fail. I think it just doesn't go our way, but it does work. Do not fail to use OSHA, and also file the grievance. Bottom line.
May I jump in?
Yes, sir.
All right. Does everybody see what I have on screen here?
Yes, sir.
This is a memorandum from OSHA that's dated February of 2003. It's what's called an interpretation of the rules and regulations. They declared back in 2001 that indoor temperature is a matter of comfort, not safety. So be real cautious, because you don't want OSHA to support management's conduct. If you got temperature that's hovering below 80, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's not, in OSHA's eyes, unsafe. It's a matter of comfort versus safety. Make certain that we refrain if you can, because OSHA is not going to be helpful to us during this administration if we abuse what we should do.
All right. Thank you for that, Manny.
All right. So I think our next question is for Mallory. Mallory Eubanks?
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Eubanks. By the way, I appreciate your podcast.
Hey, I appreciate your podcast.
All right. So management did a stand-up talk, air quotes, informing us that we don't need that many bathroom breaks. Because I'm sorry, I can't read this with a straight face. Informing us that we don't need that many bathroom breaks because they get marked as stationary times. He mentioned how we just sweat out the water. Do we need permission to use the bathroom? By the way, I just want to, whoever asked that question, I want to give them big props on the proper use of a semicolon, which is a very dicey thing to try to use properly.
Bless.
Good job. Good job.
So I'm sure we all know by now that your local management might care about you, but upper management, when it gets further and further up, they don't care. You're a number, you're a person. You're somebody carrying the mail, and they don't care about you individually. Only you care about you. Only you can take care of yourself. You know your body. So no matter how badly management wishes otherwise, we are humans and we are not machines. You're a human being with rights. And under OSHA sanitation standards, employers are required to permit workers to leave the work area to use the restroom as needed and avoid putting unreasonable restrictions on bathroom use. It is therefore unlawful for them to restrict your ability to use the restroom. There's a quote that I got from one of the OSHA websites. A worker's need to access the restroom can depend on several factors, including fluid intake, air temperature, medical conditions, and medications. I mean, we have natural bodily functions. If you have to pee, you have to pee. If you have a stomach ache, you have to take care of that. Additionally, section 242.341 of the N39 is about your 2 10-minute breaks, and it further states in there, reasonable comfort stops will not be deducted from the carrier's actual time. So your 10s are not for peeing, they're for rest. The Heat Illness Prevention Program, which goes from April 1st through October 31st, states, When the HIP is in effect, supervisors, while performing required street observations, will remind employees to continue to hydrate while on their route, take necessary breaks, and to call 911 if they experience heat illness. And I mean, to be completely frank, if you're not urinating frequently while you're drinking water, you might need to drink more water. It's possible your body is using up your fluid stores in the sweat, but that's not an excuse for management to take away your ability to care for your bodily needs. Management would never be able to actually hold carriers to that rule if they did a safety talk like that, because it wouldn't hold up in discipline. So if you think about discipline, Article 16, one of the 6 questions that they ask is the rule a reasonable rule? To tell carriers that they can't use the bathroom because they sweat out the water, quote unquote, it's unreasonable, it's dehumanizing, it's demoralizing. If they actually did a stand-up talk of this nature, like whoever asked this question, the shop steward needs to grieve that instruction immediately on the basis of Article 3, Article 5, Article 14, 16 if there was discipline. And if there was discipline, you cite spying and covert techniques, M1458 for performance standards, use of DOAS and PET. You cite Article 19 of via the M39, the EL 802 Safety and Help Program Compliance Guide via Section 1 and 4, and the Joint Statement. And Article 34B. The employer agrees that any work measurement systems or time or work standards shall be fair, reasonable, and equitable. And probably more. That's just what I grabbed first look while researching this question. They're going to request a copy of the stand-up talk. They're going to interview the supervisor to figure out where the fuck they got that idea from. They're going to interview the MPU and the district manager to see if they're aware that the supervisor is telling people this. Interview the carriers and see how the carriers feel about that, feel if their rights have been violated and management saying they can't pee. And carriers need to fill out 1767s. For the remedy, I'd request that the supervisor be retrained on dignity and respect, the heat illness prevention program, and whatever else you can throw at them and see what sticks. I, again, didn't develop that grievance completely. That's just first research, what I thought. But yeah, that's bullshit. And I hope that management has never done that, but I'm sure they have. That's disgusting.
May I add?
Absolutely. Manny, quit asking. Just do it.
Just
hop
in, Papa Peralta.
I am a guest here.
Yep.
This page right here is from a document called A Guide for a Criteria. It was written by NIOSH, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. And on page 154, it's their urine danger guide. The darker your urine is, the more susceptible you are, the more in harm's way you are. So if we are not peeing after we drink, we'll never know whether or not we're hydrating enough. So use this if you have a carrier that is distressed or being challenged on the ability to take the necessary pit stops.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Oh, Badmouth, you got the next question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good, brother. Yeah, and also if your piss is super dark after you experience a heat episode, that could be evidence of muscle death. And you want to be screened for that if you're already in that hospital bed, because that's obviously not great.
It's rhabdomyolysis.
Oh, thank you so much. I was trying to remember how to pronounce that. This is why Mallory and I work on a podcast, because I was just gonna make up a name and that wasn't gonna be proper. Okay, so Elliot, sir, I got a question for you, and this question is quote: management gave a stand-up talk saying carriers aren't allowed to wear UV protection / compression clothing anymore. How do you fight back against that?
Okay.
Yeah.
First off, where the fuck do they come up with this shit? Like what supervisors actively saying you can't wear this stuff, guys?
I'm a redhead.
I don't know.
It comes from 204B medical school.
There you go. First off, as long as the clothing does not have an insignia, You can't wear like a giant like Nike shirt, guys. Just don't do it. They can't, if it doesn't have one of those, it's just a plain Jane. They can't disallow you from wearing protective clothing. It is your own personal PPE. As far as I'm aware, there is not a single provision anywhere where management can tell people that they're not allowed to wear PPE. That would be akin to them telling me, no, Elliot, you can't wear sunglasses. No, Elliot, you can't wear, whatever, a face mask. You can't do that. That would be akin to that. How are we going to grieve it? Okay, for one, that's a unilateral action. 9 times out of 10, management goes on the workroom floor because everyone in order it's unilateral action. There's no handbook or manual saying that they can stop us from doing this. Well, guess what? It's unilateral. Second of all, it's Article 14, and the EL 801 is going to be where you want to go. EL 801 tells management, hey, you're responsible for people's safety. You can't do things to make it unsafe. Plain and simple. We have carriers out there who have skin conditions like cancer. I know personally people who have blood pressure medications they take, and they can't have direct sunlight on their skin. So this is protecting them from that. Anytime that management is giving you an order that could possibly bring you harm, you absolutely have the right to refuse it. You do not have to jump off that bridge.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that, Elliot. Up next, for another question for Michael. This is a question from a CCA. Quote, has anyone been told this bullshit at a stand-up talk that we have to notify management when we take heat breaks, even if it's a minute? I asked her, where's that written in the contract? Her reply was, quote, it's been a rule for years everywhere. It just hasn't been enforced here.
All right. Well, it is a rule that you have to inform management. So if you feel that this is not a rule, unfortunately, it is a rule. It is for you to fill out the 3996 to let it inform management when you need more time. My recommendation is that if you take as many breaks as you need, you are going to take more time out in the street, and you will need to notify management why you need more time on the street. So if you're on 8 hours only or medical aid, you need to inform management that you are going over because you're going to need somebody to come out and help you deliver that mail. And so because you got to be off in that time because you're not authorized for that overtime. So you will need to report that to management. There is no such thing where it says you cannot report it. Well, I mean, if you need to take that comfort stops and you need to take heat breaks, yes, you will need to inform management that you need more time. I mean, that is something that you got to do. If you're on overtime list or whatever it is, and you put it in saying, hey, look, I'm an hour over or whatever, you're carrying an hour handoff or whatever it is. But if you're out and taking your comfort stops and your heat breaks, yes, they still need to inform management. Then you're going to need more time. It is a requirement that we have to inform management that we need it because that is where management will try to go after you, no matter what. Even though it's for heat and everything, because it takes more time, and they will use that up to saying that it's unauthorized overtime. So please notify management and fill out the 3996 when you get back to the station, saying that you took this heat breaks, and that is the reason why you went over. Okay, so you have to get authorization at 3996 saying that this is the reason, and make sure management signs it. And again, if management doesn't want to sign it, then you write refuse. If you had to bring any mail back, make sure you fill out a 1571. That is your curtail form. That 15, yeah, I think that's a curtail form. You got to fill out the curtail form and let them inform management that you brought mail back. As long as you inform your management that you brought mail back, your still will be protected and should not be disciplined, but you never know with management. And but again, protect yourself. This is your life, and let's not get disciplined for something that's put in place for a long time.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Also, I've been listening to Classes of Mail for a little bit, and I am so excited that you are now an official guest because, You're a smart motherfucker, buddy. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so I got a question for Joshua, Mr. Michigan. What? So like with less mail volume in the summer, why isn't our start times adjusted to come in earlier? Can we grieve this issue? Link it to heat-related deaths and injuries? How can we fucking fight that nonsense? Because we don't sit in the AC all day sniffing our own farts.
So technically, we can grieve anything, but the question is whether or not you'll win the grievance. First, I'd like to start by stating that the main language on how schedules are adjusted exists in Section 122 of the M39, and it does not take into consideration weather-related issues. It's mostly based on mail delivery and getting mail to the cases on time. In Texas, though, if I'm not mistaken, after Brother Gates' death, management actually did adjust the time to come in earlier for a period of time. From what I heard, it didn't last too long, but it shows that it's a reasonable solution to the heat issue. If you were to attempt to file this type of grievance, I would definitely add Article 14. But if you wanted it to be relatively successful, it would have to include evidence that would make an argument for the need for a change in start time that is clear and convincing. To us city letter carriers, it's undeniable that this would help the situation, but it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. I think that it's likely to get shot down in today's Step B climate, but it's worth a shot. The worst thing that can happen is that you lose the grievance and you're still where you were to begin with. You won't lose anything.
To add to Joshua's comment and Badmouth's reference, OSHA has been proposing heat safety updates. And so a notice of proposed rulemaking was issued in November of 2020. And right now they have just concluded the public hearings. We anticipate, as labor unions on the AFL-CIO Safety Committee, that the Trump administration is going to kill this. So think about a rule was created to create OSHA 55 years ago. And to this date, they have not been able to get out of the starting gate and create a heat safety rule. Since there is no specific heat safety rule, you got to do exactly what was being said. You got to fight as best you can. Joshua's solution: press the issue, win, lose, or draw, bring attention to it. Every single chance you get, bring it up at a labor management meeting. Have a record of us discussing that at a labor management meeting or a labor management safety and health committee meeting. Document the efforts that we're making, because later, if somebody gets hurt, we tell OSHA, these are the steps we've taken in the past above and beyond what our contract requires, and they will apply the general duty clause as best they can. It's not as strong as a hardcore rule, but we're still waiting for that to get finished.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Manny. All right, next question is for Elliot, and this is the question we have. What is this stupid no air conditioning law my supervisor is talking about? He said that we cannot have the air conditioning on unless it's 78 degrees or warmer in the office. Yet a carrier died yesterday in the heat, but we have to sweat in the office before we can go to the street to something about some Jimmy Carter law. Can this be grieved?
First off, there's no law disallowing management for turning on the furnace or their air conditioning. All right, that is ridiculous and stupid. It came from a supervisor's mouth, so I expect it. I'm guessing where they got the temperature from is from the hip training, where they say, "Hey, at 80 degrees, hips activated." So that's probably where they're coming out with that bullshit. Manny beat me to it. I was going to bring up that OSHA right now has some laws being proposed. Please contact your congressman and tell them to support making OSHA stronger. OSHA is our friend. They need our help. Please help them. When it comes to the grievance, first off, get every carrier in your office to fill out a 1767. Make management actually address it. If they're not addressing it, file the grievances about them not addressing 1767s correctly. If they do address it and tell you too bad, okay, well then we have another step to make. we have to decide why they're doing it. So you have to establish intent. If it's out of malice, I mean, that sounds like a joint statement of violence and behavior grievance, right? Like, hey, they're doing this to punish people for money. That's the only plausible solution I can think of.
To make their numbers.
If they're doing it because someone from district is holding, a knife to their throat and saying, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to fire you. Okay, well then why is that person from district doing this? Where's that malice coming from? And I'm going to go talk to them, and they're going to tell me whether they like it or not. Article 14 forces management to provide a safe working environment. ELM 811.21 states in the relevant fact, managers must A, demonstrate a commitment to providing safe and healthful working conditions in all Postal Service owned and leased installations. They can't make the environment unsafe on purpose. They have to provide a safe working condition. The next thing we got to do, we have to establish harm. Get your carriers to talk about the harm, what it's doing to them, about how it is just killing them in the office. They just don't want to be there, right? This is vital. I'm bringing this up for the stewards. It's vital to always prove the harm, just like we have to prove what the remedy is. Well, what's the remedy in this situation? Well, turn the fucking air conditioning on. Or maybe cease and fucking desist. And then turn the air conditioning on. At the end of the day, we need to hold the supervisors accountable and ensure the safety of the carriers. Please inform your membership of what needs to be done to get the things to win, because we got to win, and this is how we do it: is through our carriers. It's not a one-man show.
Elliot, I love you, brother.
I love you too, Badmouth.
Yeah. It's exactly. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. Light them up, and let's keep each other safe. Yeah, no. One of my favorites is how the AC is always broken in the morning, and then is somehow functional when we get back. That's weird. It's weird. It's a weird coincidence. I got a question for Richie Ray. The Bantam Rooster of Branch 41. So we got no ice machines, and managers aren't buying us water. Jesus Christ. What can the union do for workers? Can we call OSHA?
Well, the union can represent the workers by contacting USPS management and safety officials to address the lack of drinking water and ice. If the issue persists, they can file a complaint with OSHA. OSHA's regulations is that the employers has got to provide drinking water to employees. My suggestion to everybody is that the union needs to start the safety meetings. They have to have a sit down and go over the issues in all the stations in the installation. We have to discuss there's no drinking water. Ice machines, I don't think are guaranteed. I don't want to put Alan on blast, but I believe I heard in one of his episodes in his station, he was able to get management to put in an ice machine. So maybe he could share that story. In my opinion, when you sit down and have negotiations with management, you go over all the safety issues and you have all the facts in front of you, documentation, and you go over all the safety issues. Drinking water is got to be part of your safety issue. If there's no drinking water in that station, we got to address it. You could take it to OSHA, but I think you need to go through the due process, sit down, have the negotiation, sit down with management, have the minutes, file the complaint, file the grievance, then complain to OSHA there's no drinking water. You got to do the due process. I do not believe it's unreasonable in this day and age to request ice machines, especially in New York. I only could speak for New York. I know it's hot and everywhere, but I just know New York City. The heat here is not your regular heat. 95 degrees, the humidity feels like it's 120. It's just, the heat just rips right through your skin. Okay, I'm sure it's like that everywhere, but I only could speak for New York. I do not see as unreasonable to request an ice machine because that could save, you want to talk about numbers? Their emergency room expenses alone is going to save us money for putting in one ice machine or two ice machines. You want to save money? That's how you could bring it to them. Not that, I want to say that money, it has to do with our lives, but you're talking to people who only care about money. So try to talk their language. I think it's reasonable to get ice machines. Is it guaranteed? I'm not sure. Okay, I'll have Manny answer that question. I don't think it's guaranteed, but drinking water must be provided. Now, I'm not talking about bathroom faucets. Drinking water has to be provided.
To Richie's point, they have to provide a drinking fountain that provides what OSHA calls cool, potable water. Potable defined as adequate and satisfactory for human consumption. It's clean water that meets that need. They do not have to provide bottled water. In 2013, when I had a series of meetings with OSHA, even with a friendly administration, their position is they cannot require an employer to provide bottled water, but they have to provide cool, potable water. So if you don't have a drinking fountain, they got to provide it. If they don't have a drinking fountain, you can demand bottled water. They have to provide us cool, potable water. And if you can't get it, turn in a 1767. Look at that HIP information that I said. It's part of the engineering controls on the same element at that 9-page document that I covered earlier.
All right, thank you for that, Manny. And I also think this next question leads directly into what you were talking about, and this question is for Alan. Question: can I do a PS Form 1767 for office not supplying water? They always have in the past. Was told that our bathroom sink and bathroom sink water is potable, which I would never use. We have a water fountain, but it's never been maintained. With all these heat service talks, you think they would be more cautious? Thanks, and be safe out there.
All right, so first, basically, Manny already answered this question. So thank you for doing the heavy lifting for me, Mr. Peralta. I appreciate that. So I will say, as far as the 1767 goes, just like Manny was saying, if they're providing water for you that is drinkable, then they've met their obligation. So if there is a problem with your fountain, maybe like we had a fountain at my station for a while that the stream was so weak you couldn't get a container under it, and the sinks were too short, so there was no place to actually fill a container of water that you could take with you. So that's an issue. So management had to provide bottled water, just like Mr. Peralta was saying. So if there's actually an issue with your fountain that makes it unsafe to drink, absolutely fill out that 1767. But if that water is okay, I mean, this whole idea that, oh, I won't drink tap water, where are you delivering mail? Bangladesh? I mean, unless you're in like Flint, Michigan, dude, that water is drinkable. Most of the carriers in here, we're all old. We grew up drinking from the hose, and that's fine. So my advice to you is don't be so precious about the water you're drinking. If it's a safety issue, absolutely rip management's ass for that safety issue. But if they're providing water, it doesn't have to be fancy bottled water, just like Mr. Peralta said.
Adding to the point of the water faucet, the water system, the water cooler, whatever you want to call it, if it is not clean, if it is not hygienic, if it has not been addressed, then we have failed on the front line to make the employer fix it earlier. Press it earlier. Don't wait till somebody comes to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just come from a place too. We get warnings in the mail every 3 months about the PFAS levels. They legally have to send it to us. So a lot of us, even though, if you're in Flint, Michigan, bottled water. Holy God. Yes. That's a long story. But yeah, because sometimes the water that comes out of the tap is darkish brown. Maybe that's it. So yeah, maybe put in a water filter for that too. But yes, please write that up. Make sure the water, because sometimes in certain areas, the water isn't Bangladesh and it may not be Flint, but what's like a step above Flint is where some of us are. So if you're a step above, try to put that in. Have them get a nice clean out that filter. Make sure the filter gets checked. So anyway, great. Thank you for that. And next question I got here is for Michael. This is a question we got. Quote, had a stand-up talk today while I was off. About 1 hour office time. I'm the union rep steward in my office, just looking for any advice on grieving this if they actually start pushing it. I know they had the talk today because they know I would say something.
Okay, to answer that question, it's so funny that I just went through this problem with my station and actually my branch too. Okay, because my office management was going around telling all the carriers that times that's in the office. Okay, and that is something that a carrier and from M41 reporting requirements that it is carrier as soon as they know what the time that's going to take, they're supposed to report it to management. Okay, and but unfortunately, that is actually with the amount of mail that you're going to deliver. They don't tell you what the office time is. Okay, so the reporting requirements is for the 96, but in the office, it is only how long it's going to take in the office that you're going to take. Management just cannot tell you the time. Okay, now here's where some of the things that people look at it is the Memorandum 1664, Memorandum 1769, where my branch says it's not a grievance because as long as management is not using a corrective action, they can do whatever they want. Okay. Now here's where I look at it. To me, that causes hostile work environment. Okay. Because when the hostile work environment is when the management is telling you the time, say, hey, you need to get out of the office in 30 minutes. You need to get out of the office in 45 minutes, an hour. And the carrier goes, wait, there is no way I can make that time. My office time is going to be longer than that. You don't have to commit to the office time because the only reporting time that's 1296. So the office time, we don't have to commit to anything. Okay. And as long as we do our normal job doing the office, we don't have to commit to that. Okay. So what I'm saying is for the steward to file agreements will be on joint limited violence and maintaining mutual atmosphere by management on the M39 section 115.4 for the no mutual respect because they're causing an argument that is not necessary because carrier knows how long it's going to take. Management is trying to force you to do it in a short amount of time. Okay. So that is where you got to file the grievance on is not because of the reporting requirement, because of them creating a hostile work environment. Okay. So you got to file for joint domestic violence saying, bullying behavior is not allowed, right? So they add that in because when they're telling you the time, that is a bullying behavior. When they're causing a hostile work environment because they're causing an argument between you and the management. That's also something that you can file a grievance on, and that is where that's most important. You want that to stop as soon as possible. The steward needs to file that grievance immediately because you don't want the whole station to start arguing with management and having that problem immediately going around days in, weeks out, because it's going to create everybody just hating their life in the office. And so you got to file that grievance immediately.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's another thing because a lot of these questions are coming from CCAs. That's a great outlook and a great point of view. Like if they're maybe not technically violating a thing, but it's causing stress in the workplace, that's a JSOV.
Yes.
That's a JSOV
yes,
thing. And we talk about this on CCA Corner, and like I've done this where we got CCAs in their 90 days. They can't grieve something. They can grieve something, but there's going to be repercussions. Well, fuck it. I already got a big target on my back. Management hates me, so I'm going to grieve having overheard the way they talk to somebody else as a JSOV grievance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So then that way, yeah, it's a great workaround. It's like, oh well, you're doing the bare minimum and getting away with shit, but you're not doing right by your employees. So what's a creative way that we can fuck your day up until you do right by us? So that's awesome, Michael. I love you, bro.
Thank you.
Can I add on that because you talked about CCAs and not being able to be protected, especially at the front end. On
Yes,
my
please jump in.
on my main page, at the bottom under OSHA, I have a section called Landmark Decision Against the Post Office. In essence, there was a settlement made between OSHA, the Department of Justice, and the Postal Service over the fact that they were firing CCAs who reported injuries during their probationary period. And the settlement creates an obligation to have another review process before a CCA can be fired if they're fired after an injury is reported. So take a look at that section, print out that page, have it available, and have that CCA file a whistleblower complaint if you have an injured CCA who reports an injury and is then fired. Force the employer to back off so that they quit intimidating our membership. Thank you.
Hell yes. Thank you, Papa Peralta. I'm gonna keep calling you that, man. Like, I'm sorry. It's just gonna be the thing. I got a question for Mr. Michigan, Josh. My boss approached me as I was coming back and checking my truck. Said, "There's no mail. You're getting a 30-minute pivot, and you'll be back in 8." Now I'm stressing, and I don't know. I don't want to disappoint him. What do you say to that?
All right, listen, we got to stop entertaining the idea that these routes are less than 8. You can't spell pivot without OT. That's overtime. Never stress about meeting a manager's expectations. It takes what it takes. If a management assigns you a pivot, then fill out a 3996 if you feel like you'll be over 8 hours on your assignment plus the pivot. If you do not, at the very least, communicate with the office from the field that you will be going over 8 hours and ask for further instructions. Too often, we feel stressed about meeting management's expectations, but we can't let that distract us from working in a safe and precise manner. Do your job the way it's supposed to be done. Take as long as you need to take. Especially out here in the heat, we need to make sure we're hydrating and taking comfort stops. And if at the end of the day, you in fact do not have undertime, you need to ask management for further instructions on how to handle the remaining mail they've assigned you. I can't say this enough. You can't spell pivot without OT. And never ever let management stress you out. They are temporary, and make sure to file a grievance if they harass you about not meeting expectations.
Awesome. Great response. Love that. All right. Question we have for Elliot. Here's the question we got. Quote, "We received a scanner message this morning stating, quote, take your authorized breaks in a shady area if possible. What does authorized breaks mean? Will I get in trouble if I don't tell my manager I want to take a break? Do I need permission to take a break?"
All right, first of all, grieve this stupid message. Anyone who understands how carriers think know that as soon as they get that, the first thing they think is, oh, I need permission to take a break. And you absolutely do not need any permission to take a comfort stop. You got to go to the bathroom. You got to warm up in the wintertime. You got to cool off for the summertime. You need to hydrate. Hey, guess what? This is a comfort stop, and it's automatically approved. If manager comes to you and says it's not approved, yeah, grieve that, because fuck them. The message itself is pretty easy to actually grieve. I always went in the first time and said, listen, I need you to go on the workroom floor right now and tell them that all their comfort stops are approved and that they don't need your permission to take a comfort stop, because I just had 3 carriers come up to me and say that they think they need your permission. Secondly, do you need to tell them when you take a break? I'm going to reference to M1860, which I know it's not the end all be all for heat safety, but it's supposed to be the guideline, right? In the guidelines, it tells carriers, hey, if you're going to take a comfort break due to heat, you need to message your supervisor and tell them so. I always pull this up during the grievance and I say, listen, I know this is for Independence, Missouri. I think we should adopt these guidelines officially. I think we should adhere to them. And 9 times out of 10, management says, I don't have to pay any more money. And I'm like, no, just sign the dotted line. and they say, okay, and they agree to adhere it. And realistically, it's best for both parties because most management, they need you to deliver mail. They don't want you being out for weeks and weeks at a time, right? So they're, they want to give you the water. Most of them do. I know some of them are jackasses. Telling them that you're taking a break is for your own safety as well. I've had supervisors actually go out and check on the carrier, bring them ice water, bring them Gatorade, bring them popsicles. The supervisors bring us popsicles. You guys are our favorites. It's kind of throws it back into management. Like, hey, I'm taking this break. The heat's getting to me. Please come check on me. Not directly saying it, of course, but it tells them like, hey, you need to probably check in on this person. If for some reason you send them a message on your scanner and they tell you, get back to work, it's not that hot, I would tell them no. And then in person, I tell them to fuck off. Please don't tell them to fuck off in the scanner messages. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot.
You really landed that ending. Well, I'm sorry, I have something to say.
Elliot, yeah. Thank you.
Never
Elliot.
in writing, folks. Never in writing.
I mean, if you do it, you got to make sure you're bulletproof in other ways. Thank you, Elliot, for that. So I think, Chris, we're moving into the street time section, right?
We are.
All right. I got a question for Miss Eubanks, Mallory, the best co-host ever. This is the question. I was told by management that unless it's 110 degrees, Jesus Christ, I can't read these seriously. I was told by management that unless it's 110 degrees, I can't take additional comfort stops. I'm going on mute. I can't deal with this.
Where did they get 110 degrees? I would love
out
to
of their ass.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to know where 110 degrees specifically. Like, do they think if 109 you then don't get? That's insane. So, M1860, which Manny brought up a minute ago, that settlement was restricted to Independence, Missouri. However, correct me if I'm wrong, Manny. It can still be used as like supportive documents or like evidence in a case.
Arbitrators will not accept it for anything other than the one line that says the employer has to have something in place everywhere where we are exposed to the heat. I think the best thing to do is rely on the HIP. Let go of 1860. The HIP that we have right now, especially that 9-page instruction and the mailer to your homes, I think covers everything we're talking about.
Right. So the HIP for fiscal year 25 says the HIP is triggered during the period of April 1st through October 31st and at any other time when weather reports issued by the National Weather Service indicate outdoor heat index temperatures expected to exceed 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Additionally, the chart for symptoms instructs carriers to rest in a cool, shady area if they experience symptoms of heat illness. So if you want a real number that management can cite, they can cite that 80 degrees in the HIP.
You can file a grievance over their failure to follow the instructions they were given from headquarters.
Right. Again, I'll reference what I referenced in my last answer, section 242.341 of the M39. Reasonable comfort stops will not be deducted from the carrier's actual time. You can take comfort stops. It doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees in the heat or if it's negative 10 degrees in the winter. You can take comfort stops if you need to. You are not a robot. There was also M00242, and I believe that this was about route inspections. However, it still is relevant in sense that it says, our position on this matter is that management should not deduct reasonable comfort / rest stops from the total street time during route inspections if deduction of the time is contrary to past local practice. If excessive time for comfort / rest stops is deducted, the matter should be discussed with the carrier. And that settlement came from 1976. So comfort stops have been a thing that have been established by the Postal Service for a very long time. Regardless of the heat, regardless of the temperature, regardless of whatever, like my question before, where if you have to pee, you have to pee, take your comfort stops regardless, because this 110 degree number bullshit that they come up with is not real. There was a summer stand-up talk that USPS issued in 2015. Stay healthy in the heat. Hot weather is here. Extreme heat can be dangerous. No one should die from a heat wave, but every year on average, extreme heat causes 658 deaths in the United States. Remember these 3 things when working outside during hot weather. 1, you need plenty of water throughout the day, 8 ounces of water every 20 minutes. 2, don't wait until you feel 2, rest breaks help your body recover. Resting in the shade or in air conditioning helps cool you down. So in a stand-up talk that management issued 10 years ago, it says rest breaks help your body recover. Is that not evidence enough that you need to be taking breaks in the heat if management is issuing stand-up talks about the very same thing? They say it is important to know the signs of heat-related illness. Acting quickly can prevent more serious medical conditions and may even save lives. So just like my last question, immediately 1767's on that. Stewards should investigate it and grieve that instruction, and that is the kind of false instruction that gets carriers killed. They say that safety depends on you, and it's cheesy, but it's right.
Well, you've seen my articles. I say safety depends on me because those assholes couldn't give a crap about us. So we have to protect ourselves. Now, every single thing we're talking about here, please raise it in meetings before a problem, not after a problem. Have a record of making every good faith effort to get the attention of the idiots before they kill our membership.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Mallory and Manny, on that one. Question for Corey. Here we go. Corey, question for you, brother. Quote, is there a report I can request that indicates truck usage on a particular day? Management is keeping ProMasters with air conditioning unused at the office while park and loop carriers use LLVs. I was thinking of filing an Article 14 by contending that, in doing so, management is not utilizing all available tools to mitigate, to the extent possible, the risks associated with heat stress illness.
Yeah, there's a report. While we got Manny on the line, I want to personally thank him. A lot of stuff that I've dealt with on my podcast dealing with heat, Manny has contributed to those grievances. I know in episode 53, I dealt specifically with heat-related grievance. That was from 2015. And I reached out to Manny then, and he sent me, I think the case file's over 200 and some pages. And Manny sent me a lot of stuff for that. In episode 54, I had one on ergonomics. And if you go and look at that episode on arbitration.com, Manny has a 6-page statement inside that case file. And so while I've got Manny on here for everybody, I just want to tell you personally, thank you, sir. Anytime I've ever reached out to Manny, he has helped me. It's probably the same day. He'll send me all the shit. Now, he'll cuss me while he sends it, but he will send me whatever I need. I reached out to him the other day about HIP. He got my ass again, but he sent me everything I needed.
I got on your ass because you weren't reading my articles.
I hadn't got to it yet. But Manny, thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Hey, thank you for anytime I reached out to you, brother. I appreciate it. You've always taken care of me. But if you look in those case files, you'll see statements from Manny Peralta. He wrote me a 6-page statement from our ergonomics case file that I was putting together. So yes, thank you, Manny, for always being there for me, always helping me out whenever I needed it. 2 great wins for Nashville installation because of you, Branch 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Like Mallory was talking about, you always hear things whenever you see safety stand-up talks, and you'll see safety depends on me. It's got the little diamond, safety depends on me. Y'all seen it before. Now, always remember that when you're dealing with safety-related issues. Safety depends on me. Always remember, we're talking a lot of things here about management, air conditioning inside of our post offices, vehicles, and shit like that. But if I'm in a station and there's no air conditioning and it's hot and safety depends on me, I'm going out to my vehicle, to the air conditioning in my vehicle, and I'm going to sit there until my body gets right. Management can raise all the hell they want to, but I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to be safe. And so if management wants to fuck with us and say, hey, we're not going to put an air conditioning in there because we want to maintain this 45 minutes of office time, whatever y'all feel like that's why they're doing it. If it's an hour office time, if we feel like we can sweat them out of the office, I'm not going to sit in a station that's unsafe and then go out on the street that's killing people and still be unsafe. So take breaks as needed in the heat always. That's in the office as well. To me, I'm going to go out and sit in my vehicle. And if they want to take issue with that, then we'll file grievances. And I'm going to help y'all out with grievances material here in just a second. But I'm tired of my people dying on the streets and management not giving two shits about us. And so that's the reason this is so beautiful, what y'all done here today. And thank you, John, for putting all this together. Is to let our people know, hey, the city letter carrier will take care of this ourselves. I'm glad Manny's on here, somebody from National, somebody that's been an advocate for us as far as city letter carriers for so many years. I'm glad he's seeing city letter carriers here today on this Zoom. You don't have any administration on here. You got city letter carriers taking care of city letter carriers, and that's what's so beautiful about it. But yeah, if I'm in a station and there's no air conditioning, and I tell management, I make them aware of that, and they say, hey, ain't shit we can do about it. And I'm saying, well, hell, I'm going to go out to my car and sit in the air conditioning. Well, no, you can't do that. I'll be damned. And we're going to file grievances on that, okay, if they try to prohibit me from being safe. Also, authorized breaks, take authorized breaks in the heat. I've always, matter of fact, authorized breaks in the heat is when Manny reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be on the National Safety Committee. Because of me telling management somebody needs a foot in their ass for saying that. And Manny reached out and he said, hey, Corey, I saw this email because I shot him an email. Everybody in management, Bruce Getz, I know you remember him, Manny, but Eastern Area Safety Manager. But take breaks as needed in the heat. And people, when they say authorized break, all breaks are authorized. I see that online a lot. People say all breaks are authorized. That's not the case. It's a dangerous message, like Mallory was saying and others are saying, for those new hires that come in and say that I call in and I'm a CCA and my shop steward and carriers tell me, hey, take breaks as needed in the heat. Call in and make sure you make management aware to take a break. And they call in and they say, hey, I'm going to take another break. And management says, I'm not authorizing that. So what do you do now as a CCA? So don't say that all breaks are authorized. Say that take breaks as needed in the heat. So any message that come out that says take authorized breaks in the heat, I'm going to grieve that. I'm grieving it because CCAs are vulnerable with that information and with that mandate. Because if I'm a CCA and I call back and I say, hey, I'm taking another break, and they say it's not authorized, what does that CCA do? They're going to keep going. It's a dangerous message. I'm always going to grieve it because all breaks are not authorized, because you got to understand who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who put numbers in front of lives. That's management, and they don't give a shit about us. And so, yeah, I'm always going to grieve that. But as far as what you're going to look for, if you say that there have vehicles at the station and they have air conditioning in them, and they're using LLVs instead of those vehicles, I don't know why they would do that other than they're just pieces of shit. There's something called a vehicle utilization daily report. It's called vehicle utilization daily report. That's what you're going to request. Every vehicle assigned to your station, it will log the mileage on that vehicle that day. And that's what you're going to need. Also, Geotab will track the vehicle usage. And so that's what you're going to request. And I'm going to read something. It's going to take a while, and I apologize. But as a new steward, you're thinking, what am I going to deal with safety? What do we have for dealing with safety? You need a list of those things that you're going to cite when you're dealing with safety-related grievances. And I'm going to read just a few of them, but that will help you out. The amount of things that are in place for us as city letter carriers and shop stewards to use against management when we're dealing with safety. And everything that you see, you will see that there is an obligation, a commitment from management, the employer, to us, the city letter carrier, the employee, in everything that you read. And I'm going to read some of those things for you, and I apologize. I know that we're under kind of some time restraints. We're going a little bit long, but one of the best things is what Manny was talking about earlier. And if you look up his stuff that he was just talking about, the heat training materials is some of the best things that you'll get to help out. The stand-ups will be there. The summer stand-up talks are money. Those summer stand-up talks, if you get those are money. And I'm going to deal with something here in just a second. I think my second question, I'll deal with some more of that. But here's something that you look for. M41 section 112.4. M41 section 112.4 that deals with safety. Make sure you put that in there. Article 14, obviously, as a new steward. It's in the JCAM. It's the only one that's in the JCAM. And of course, under Article 19, we're going to incorporate all of these other things that I'm going to talk about as far as EO handbooks, ELM, things like that. That's under Article 19, and we're going to incorporate all these other things. But the JCAM has Article 14 in it, and it talks about Section 1 responsibilities. It is the responsibility of management to provide safe working conditions in all present and future installations and to develop a safe working force. And so that puts the onus on management, not the union. We're to cooperate. We're to help out if they ask. But that onus is on management, right? If you go down 14.2.
No, finish the next sentence. Go to the next sentence.
The union will cooperate with and assist management to live up to this responsibility. And so
make them do their job.
Yeah, that's where we come into play. When we file a grievance under Article 14, management has that responsibility, and we're going to help them along the way. And so, yes, 14.2, Section 2, cooperation. The employer and the union insist. Now, when you look at that word insist, and I'm big on words, if y'all have ever listened to my podcast, I love words. Insist. That means demand something forcefully, not accepting refusal. That's what insist means. So the employer and the union insist on the observance of safe rules and safe procedures by employees and insist on correction of unsafe conditions. Employers shall make available at each installation forms to be used by employees in reporting unsafe and unhealthy conditions. If an employee believes he or she is being required to work under unsafe conditions, which is what all of this is talking about today. Everything that we're dealing with today, that covers that. If an employee believes he or she is being required to work under unsafe conditions, such an employee may, A, notify such employee supervisor, who will immediately investigate the condition and take corrective action if necessary. And that's what Manny just talked about. Be preemptive. Address it beforehand. If you see something unsafe, address it with management. And what does it say they're supposed to do? Immediately investigate the condition and take corrective action if necessary. B, notify such employee steward, if available, who may discuss the alleged unsafe condition with such employee supervisor. C, file a grievance at formal step A of the grievance procedure within 14 days of notifying such employee supervisor if no corrective action is taken during the employee's tour. And D, make a written report to the union representative from the local safety and health committee who may discuss the report with such employee supervisor. Upon written request of the employee involved in an accident, a copy of the PS Form 1769 accident will be provided. And then it talks about grievances. You've got the ELM. This is also critical. Section 8, safety, health, and environment. 8.10, occupational safety and health program. When we talk about there's a commitment from them to us. That's how this grievance is going to be laid out. Any grievance we file against management, we're going to show everything that they have in place is a commitment from them to us to keep us safe, the employee. Occupational Safety and Health Program, 811 General, 811.1 Authority. The Postal Service is subject to public law number 91-596, the Occupational Safety and Health OSH Act of 1970, pursuant to the Postal Employees Safety Enhancement Act of 1998. The OSH Act provides for citations, penalties, and criminal referrals for those employers who fail to comply. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, is responsible for promulgating and enforcing standards and regulations under the Act. 811.2 principles. 811.21, management commitment. There's that word I've been talking about. There's a commitment from them to us. If you look at the joint statement, you look at the Postal Service policy on workplace harassment, you look at all those things, 665, there's a commitment from them to us, no different in safety. Managers must demonstrate a commitment to providing safe and healthful working conditions in all Postal Service owned and leased installations. B, become involved in day-to-day safety performance. Anything you're talking about here today, when you're talking about these fools talking about 110 degrees, no air conditioning, keep it moving, beat the heat, all these other things that you've been talking about. Look at Colorado, what the gentleman was talking about. They said that they sent out these REMS messages, so he requested them. No REMS messages sent out on that gentleman that died. It's things like that when you're talking about this commitment, their failed commitment to us. C, be held accountable for safety performance and compliance with OSHA standards and regulations. See EL 802. 811.22 vision statement. And listen to this. Of all the shit we've been talking about for so long with HIP and all these other things of people dying in the streets and how management reacts to that, vision statement, the Postal Service will become a leader in occupational safety and health for the federal government and private sector by demonstrating a commitment to integrating safe working practices into all of our services. The Postal Service is committed to participation in the OSHA voluntary protection programs. The Postal Service also engages in innovative safety efforts, such as the Ergonomics Program and Joint Labor Management Safety and Health Committee. What a crock of shit when you look at what we've been dealing with for so long. The management says they're going to be on the cutting edge of safety. And we have people dying in the streets because of their negligence. 811.24, safety philosophy. The safety philosophy of the Postal Service is stated below. A, any occupational injury or illness can be prevented. And the main ones who cause injury to us is postal management. By their neglect and how they handle the workroom floor, you're talking about air conditioning in offices, telling us that there's nothing they can do. On the street, telling people that they can't take breaks unless it's 110 degrees outside. Telling that there is no such thing as extra breaks in the heat. These are things that happen. And you see, any occupational injury or illness can be prevented. This goal is realistic, not theoretical. Supervisors and managers have primary responsibility for well-being of employees and must fully accept this principle. B, management, which encompasses all levels, including the first-line supervisor, is responsible and accountable for the prevention of accidents and control of resultant losses. Just as the line organization is responsible for retaining production levels, ensuring quality of performance, maintaining good employee relations, and operating within cost and budget guidelines, supervisors and managers must likewise accept their share of responsibility for the safety and health of employees. I'm almost done. EL 801, Handbook EL 801, Supervisors' Responsibilities. The Occupational Safety and Health Act requires employers to provide a safe and healthful workplace free of recognized hazards and to follow Occupational Safety and Health Administration OSHA standards. Employers' responsibilities also include providing training. How about HIP training? Medical examinations and record keeping. As a Postal Service supervisor, you are the backbone of our safety and health program. What a load of shit that is. Y'all agree with that? Y'all agree that's a load of shit? That just said that management.
It is the countryest of crocs, is what it is. It is
these are management's handbook. We didn't write this handbook. This is management's handbooks. And it says As a Postal Service supervisor, you are the backbone of our safety and health program. You're in a highly visible leadership position. You're in a highly visible leadership position that requires setting the standard for accident prevention. You're responsible for implementing written programs and action plans, monitoring employees, safety performance, and preventing operational safety errors. To properly exercise your responsibility, you must know Postal Service rules and regulations and the rights and responsibilities of employees you supervise. Postal Service safety philosophy. This is EL 801 still. Postal Service position is that any injury can be prevented. The goal is realistic, not just theoretical. Supervisors or managers have primary responsibility for the well-being of employees, must fully accept this principle. The goal is realistic, not just theoretical. Supervisors or managers. It does not say the union. It does not say city letter carriers. It says supervisors or managers have primary responsibility for the well-being of employees, must fully accept this principle. Management, including all levels through the initial level of supervisor, is responsible and accountable for the prevention of accidents and control of resultant losses. Just as the line organization is responsible for retaining production levels, ensuring quality of performance, maintaining good employee relations, and operating within cost and budget guidelines, supervisors and managers must likewise accept their share of responsibility for the safety and health of employees. And you got EL 802, EL 814, they all say the same thing. It's management's responsibility to keep us safe. And yet we have a Zoom right now where all these questions are in complete contradiction to that. So you have plenty of things, plenty of resources, new shop stewards, old shop stewards. When you're filing a grievance on safety, I would incorporate all of those because I want an arbitrator to see all of these things. Put that onus on management to keep us safe, and here we are. Management telling us we can't take breaks unless it's 110 degrees outside. Not giving us potable water. Telling us there's no air conditioning and there's nothing we can do about it. Now, all of these things, make sure you have a list of things that you're going to put in there. Like I said, Article 19 incorporates all of those things. And so the answer to the question is that report. That's what you're looking for.
All right.
That could have been answered 30 minutes ago.
All right, Corey, could you elaborate a little bit more?
No.
Manny, was that you?
You betcha.
Hey, Corey, one of my favorite things about you is how much you'll say, I don't like reading. But you say, I don't like reading like you were a high school English lit teacher for 40 years and now volunteer at the library. Like, that's how much you don't like reading. That was brilliant, brother. I love it. I love it. So we got a question now for shit. Did I lose my place on the list? Oh no, I think this is for Capone.
What up, Badmouth?
What up, baby?
Not much. I like no video of you. I mean, come on, that's disappointing.
Oh, I live in a tent on the outskirts of the city because the CCA doesn't accrue any sick leave, and after 2 years of brutally being treated and working forced overtime, I had some health issues, and now I live in a tent down by the river. But in any case, that's not the focus here. Okay, so but I do got bogged in on the skillet on the fire. I know you're a New Orleans cat, so all right, Capone, can I leave my line of travel? / can I leave my route to take my lunch inside a restaurant on a different route? Like, yeah, does it have to be between mailboxes for me to take my break?
Well, first off, I want to say there's bullshit that John Murphy put me after Corey Walton and Manny Peralta going back and forth. That's not cool, Murphy. Thank you, though. But the M39 section 126.5 mentions the 1564As and authorized lunch periods, travel, and location that you record on. You get up to 3 choices. And it says the travel to and from lunch spots will be charged to the form 1564, as well as any deviation for the carrier for the lunch. It's further stated in the M41, Section 251, that Form 1564A shows locations of authorized lunch stops and locations where the carrier is authorized to leave the route for lunch. It was so important it was mentioned twice in their handbook and as well as ours. It further states in the M39, Section 171, that locations of suitable lunch places and times must be a discussion between the carrier and the unit manager. Authorized locations must be on or within reasonable distance. It further states that reasonable distance, if it's over a half mile, they will provide you transportation, i.e. your postal vehicle, to be able to go to that spot. M document 00262 further states that postmaster will consider the accommodations, available distances, and travel time in each instance before authorizing travel to lunch spots. You are able to leave your route. It's put on your 1564, which is in your route book, explaining the 3 spots that you want to go. They can't deny you to leave your route. Furthermore, Article 14.2 mentions safety, and we are guaranteed a sanitary workplace. If you have a restaurant on your route that isn't sanitary, and there's one that is reasonable distance off your route that is, you can inform management that you're going to that lunch spot for your lunch break, not the unsanitary one. That goes along with comfort stops. We're guaranteed a sanitary bathroom. In all HIP training, it also mentions us going to a cool area or AC if we can get into it. And again, if there's a restaurant that is just off your route that has air conditioning, whereas one that is, or maybe you don't even have a restaurant on your route, you have the availability to go to that. Safety is of utmost concern, and they push that they want to keep us safe through all these heat and training and the HIP trainings. That includes the availability for us to get into AC if you're dealing with any heat stress issues. So to answer your question, yes, you can leave your route to go to a restaurant on another route. It would be filled out on the 1564A, informing them of your lunch spots. If there's any situations where one of the spots is not available, you can inform your supervisor earlier in the day, we're going to go to this lunch spot rather than that one due to this one being closed or whatever reason specifically.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Capone. Question for Joshua. Here's a question. Quote, I told the manager in the morning I'll be good with 8 hours, but with the heat and parcels, I realized I needed more time. Management said deliver everything and be back in 8 hours. What do I do with what I have left?
All right. So what has happened is management failed to give you clear instructions as to what to do when you could not complete your assigned delivery within 8 hours. Refer to M document 326, which states that the grievant did inform management of their inability to complete their route in 8 hours. Further, it was demonstrated that they were ordered by management to complete the route. Although there was no expressed authorization to complete the delivery of mail on an overtime basis, the permission would be inherent in the authorization to continue delivery after notification that the grievant was unable to complete the route. You did what you needed to do. You told them you cannot deliver everything and be back within 8 hours. You asked for further instructions, and their instructions were unclear. In that case, whatever you choose to do becomes inherent in their instructions. You can make the choice to either complete the assignment or bring it back because they instructed both. I would bring it back because we're not supposed to be making our own decisions, but it's a matter of choice, to be honest. If you bring it back, make sure to fill out a 1571 for the entire thing and retain a copy for yourself. Above all else, what you do not do is rush and work unsafe in order to get the mail done in 8 hours. Just like I said before, it takes what it takes. Make sure to be taking your comfort stops. Put the customer first by working in a precise manner, not a rushed one. And put your safety first. Your safety is worth more than an argument with management. If management attempts to get you for unauthorized overtime, they cannot win that. They didn't give you clear instructions. Make sure to fight that if that's the case. To answer your question, essentially you just bring it back and ask for further instructions.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Joshua. Question for Brother Corey. This one's a doozy. Quote, I was notified today that my T6 was vomiting on my route Wednesday. He stated that he was dizzy from the heat and he went back to the office. He said that management told him he couldn't go home because they didn't have anyone to cover for him. They allowed him to sit in the office for an hour and drink Gatorade and water, but sent him back out. I've already filed the HIP training and it's going to Formal A. What can I do now? This is so wrong. This is why people are dying. During the informal meeting, the first thing I pulled out were the news reports of all the carriers that had died from the heat. I told them that this is why we are here right now. I explained the circumstances, with each emphasizing the incident in Independence, Missouri. I don't want to see others dying, especially in my office. I have to do something. I cannot let this go. Any and all help is appreciated. I'm kind of new to writing grievances, though.
Do y'all want Sunday, Corey, or Wednesday, Corey, on this answer?
Sunday. Motion passes.
It's after 9 Central, so motherfucker as much as you need to motherfucker.
We're getting Corey after hours. Let's go.
So, and I do want Manny's participation in this when I'm finished. And so, first off,
before I jump in though, this question I did copy and paste from the Facebook group NALC Ask a Steward. So this is a legit question someone posted. I think it was 2 years ago under the Facebook group Ask a Steward. So Corey, go for it.
Yeah, I've already given a lot of the things that we're going to cite in that. Yeah, Manny, when he first started talking, went through a lot of things, and this is going to be recorded. I would go back and look at his stuff because he pulled up a lot of stuff that you are going to refer to on this grievance. Anytime you deal with this, someone vomiting, to me, it's past the point. Okay. When you look at heat training materials, and Manny was talking about that, heat training materials, they have these stand-ups that they will be there, and they give clear instructions on signs and symptoms of heat stress, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and they will have all these things on there. And you heard me read earlier all of management's responsibilities, and it also talked about how supervisors and managers must know these things when they're on the workroom floor. Now we have somebody vomiting coming back, and they say that they have nobody to help, so they're going to send them back out. That's what we deal with when we talk about we're down on the street, is you got these dumb motherfuckers in this office. You got a carrier vomiting. There's no telling how close that individual came to being a Mr. Gates, or this other one in Colorado, our brother that passed away. And you got these motherfuckers in office talking about sit here, and we have nobody, because numbers are more important than a city letter carrier's life. And that's what we keep talking about on the heat issues on my podcast, is numbers are more important than our brothers and sisters. And that's the perfect example. You have somebody coming back that's saying, hey, I'm vomiting. That's a clear sign of heat stress, heat exhaustion. I'm vomiting. 911 should have been called immediately. That's what should have happened. But instead, we have the employer putting numbers over the life of our brothers and sisters. That's the shit I'm talking about when I talk about you don't hate these motherfuckers enough. When you see shit like that and you hear shit like that, Article 14 obviously is going to be where we're going to start. You can turn in a 1767 and get the look. A 1767 to me is the greatest thing you can do, because it puts management's position on paper without a request for action, without a grievance, without a reply to an informal step A or a formal step A. It puts their reply on paper initially. They're going to tell you their position right there. They cannot change that position as it goes forward. When labor gets a hold of it and says, damn, why'd you say that? You know, you can't say that. You should have said this. Too late. I've already got your response on the 1767, how you're going to correct it or what you're going to do. So you can put in a 1767. We're going to file the grievance. It don't matter what in the fuck these dumb motherfuckers say after that.
Call me back.
Because who was that? Do I need to call somebody back? Sherry, I'll call you back. But no matter what, 911 should have been called immediately. As soon as that carrier said that they were going to they were vomiting. Period. Shop stewards, tell your carriers, if they're in that position, don't go back out to the street. Take yourself to the emergency room immediately. Make sure that they are aware of what they're going to do on the workroom floor. If you have signs of heat stress, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, that's too late. If you have those signs, make sure you go to the emergency room or call 911 if you can. Management will always be management. They're always going to put numbers in front of the city letter carrier, but yeah, the 1767 will be fine. You're going to file a grievance anyway, but I like a 1767, like I said, because you're going to get their position on paper before a grievance is filed. They may try to change it later, but you can say, hey, right here is what you wrote. Article 14, obviously, if you go back and listen to what Manny says, you're going to incorporate those stand-up talks because management is supposed to be educated in those things. They're supposed to have provided us with those. HIP talks about it as well. They falsified that shit on us. I'd put all that in there. But brothers and sisters, we are dealing with a workforce as far as postal management who hates our guts. And that's just the bottom line. And there's nothing we can do to them that will equate to what they do to us. But yeah, we're going to file a grievance on that. Article 14, Article 19, those things that we cited. Manny's fixing to tell you some things right here. I can see the look in his face right there. But yeah. Anytime you deal with my people's livelihoods, their lives, you're going to get the ire up in me because, like I say, like everybody on here, you wouldn't be on here. Love the city letter care with everything you got. You love the city letter care with everything you got. And when something like that comes up, you should be a mad motherfucker about it. That somebody has risked the life of somebody in light blue because of some fucking numbers. And so, yeah, that should get your ire up a little bit. So, Manny, I'll let you finish it, my brother, if you don't mind, sir.
I don't mind. I'm going to correct you. They're not your carriers. They're our carriers. So on the engineering control, the last paragraph puts a responsibility on the supervisors. You ought to be having a labor management meeting with them. When HIP is in effect, supervisors, while performing required street observations, they got to get off their ass first, will remind employees to continue to hydrate, take necessary breaks, and call 911 if they're experiencing heat-related illnesses. Supervisors should emphasize these instructions to employees who are newly hired or returning from extended absences. Use their paperwork, use their instructions in a meeting with their supervisors, in a meeting with your postmaster saying, when are you going to get your boneheads trained so that they quit killing us? Just use their material as hard as you can.
All right, thank you very much for that.
Yeah. And also, Manny, can you spend can you just give us the elevator pitch on the difference between an engineering control and because that's language that comes up, and as a CCA, I got a background. I was a liaison between MSHA and OSHA and on multi-million-dollar jobs in the industrial sector, so I know know those differences. What's an engineering control for those of us who don't know the difference between PPE and changing the environment as far as safety goes?
Well, the easiest one that I can come up with is a guardrail to some kind of machinery. That's an engineering control.
Yes.
And so I think the easiest thing to do is just focus on, I'm going to see if I could share this. My apologies.
No, you're good. I went rogue with this question, but it's a big thing in the safety world. Engineering controls versus personal controls.
This is directly from OSHA's page It's a definition of the hierarchy of controls.
Yes.
It goes from the top to the bottom. The top is the safest way to abate a hazard, to eliminate the hazard. Then substitutions, then engineering controls, then telling your asshole managers to get off their ass, and then giving you personal protective equipment. The best way is to eliminate it. And so when you're talking about hierarchy of controls, just simply Google OSHA hierarchy of controls, and it gives you the answer to your question, because I think that's what you were asking about.
Yeah. I was asking, I was Papa Peralta. I was just asking that question because that is definitely my background, but I don't think it's a lot of letter carriers' background. And whether you are just fell off the turnip truck, New Jack CCA, or you're a steward who's been in it for a while, I think it's really important to find some of these standards in other industries that you can use to apply to put pressure on management at your station.
But remember, when we're talking about heat safety, right now we're in the rule-making process, and the administration's going to pass it or kill it. Bottom line is, let's use the hip. Let's train everybody. Let's pay attention, and let's breathe the living heck out of it.
Yes, and I think I was bringing that up just to see when you're looking at that hierarchy, where that lands on it, so we can start planning future things to get those environmental and engineering controls in. Sorry, that was I'm no longer going rogue. I'm going back to the script, guys. Sorry. I want to ask Capone.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So these are CCA, PTF specific questions now we're getting into. So wherever I take a lunch, I get a call or a text asking what I'm doing. How do I know I'm taking a lunch? Can the union do anything to stop them from spying on me? It's too goddamn hot to keep skipping my lunch. There's a lot there. Good luck, buddy.
Thanks, Badmouth. So first off, they can't be calling you on your cell phone during your lunch. Your lunch is your time. It's unpaid time. You're not being paid, and they cannot have you work for free, which them contacting you during your lunch period would be them working for free. They also, under M41 Section 141, it says USPS will provide all tools to do the job. They do not provide your cell phone. They don't pay your cell phone bill. Cell phone is yours. If they want to contact you, they can use the MDD scan, or as it's been mentioned multiple times tonight, get off their asses, do their jobs under Article 3, and go out there and see you if it's an emergency or something they need to contact you with. They have abilities to contact you. The best way to deal with that would be to inform them, whether in writing. I would prefer in writing, that way there's a written copy of it, that I would like you to stop contacting me on my cell phone. You don't have permission to use my cell phone. Give them a copy, give your union rep a copy. Any further times that they are doing that would be in lines of harassment where you've informed them they are still doing it. In regards to them tracking you, as we know, there has been built-in back and forth on tracking. They can't discipline based on the tracking. They, as we've all seen, have the maps. They watch us go around all day because they don't have anything better to do than watch us go around on a map. But they cannot discipline based on that. And they should not be harassing you and asking you what you're doing every minute of the day. We are not, part of our job is not defining what we're doing every single minute of the day. We're knowing what we are doing our job. We're working. Lunch is part of your work. And if they have any concerns, they can do their job instead of just sending out a text asking you what you're doing by going out there and seeing what is going on, or sending you messages on the MDD. Again, if it's during your lunch, you are not being paid, you're not required to respond. Or if you do respond, remember to take out that minute or two it took you to respond to add it to your lunch. So now they took 2 minutes off your lunch, make sure you go 2 minutes over, because that's your time that they are taking away from you.
Awesome. Yeah. What I tell CCAs and what I've gotten used to doing is I will set a timer on my phone, And if the supervisor comes out to give me a handoff and they interrupt me while I'm eating my tacos or whatever, I will just say right in front of them, because you want to do a shot across the bow just to let them know they're not in charge out on the route you are. I will say, hey Siri, pause timer. Yes, can I help you? And then you do your shit. Yeah, because like that's your time. That's your time. I
I'm sure
love
you
that.
got great tacos there in Texas too, Badmouth.
Oh God, they're so good, dude. Okay, so we'll talk about this off mic and whatever, but like, yeah, the best way to figure out if a taqueria is legit is you order, and I know Grosskopf can fucking back me up on this. You order taco lengua or taco tripa, because those are really hard to cook, and if they can do those well, everything else on that menu is gonna be fucking solid. But in any case, I got another question for you, Capone. I skip my breaks and lunches. God damn it, that's really hard to read. I skip my breaks and lunches because I don't want to be the last one back at the office. But I always go home with a serious headache. I don't know what to do.
So this is kind of two-part things. The first one is involves the skipping breaks and lunches. The ELM section 432.33 says no employee will be required to work more than 6 continuous hours without a meal or rest break at least half an hour. Article 41.3.k also says supervisors shall not require nor permit employees to work off the clock. Your lunch is off the clock. That is unpaid time. To give a little idea of what it actually costs you by skipping your lunch and breaks, based on this might be a little old, $36.20 an hour for top scale. If you skip one 10-minute break, that's $6.30. Two 10-minute breaks is $12.06. A lunch is 18 minutes and 10 minutes. If you skip all your breaks, you're averaging around $603.20 a month. If you do that annually, it's $7,841 a month. And over a 25-year career, it's $196,000 and 40 bucks.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Make that money. Yes.
In chat, I posted a chart that was posted on the Discord a while back. It's a chart it's the old contract numbers, but it's a chart of how much money you lose at each step for skipping your breaks.
We don't make a insanely amount of money. You do not want to be giving them $196,000. Some areas that can buy a house. In my area, it can pay rent for 3 or 4 months. The National Institute of Health reports that headaches are a common symptom of heat stress disorder and a sign of dehydration. The side effects include, but not limited to, heat rashes, kidney problems, increased risks of accidents, or even deaths. We're supposed, as we've said, safety is on us. It's also their job to make sure we are working safely. If you're going home with headaches, you're not being safe. I hear a lot of people say that safety is common sense or whatever. People are put on pressures and they're rushing to get the job done because the job's important to them. And you cannot skip because you not going home is more important than getting the route done in 8 hours. It is a tough job. It's a physically demanding job. And going home with headaches every day is a sign of dehydration every day. As we've seen, we've had multitude of carriers pass away, and it has been coming more and more often. I remember since I started carrying, you'd hear about 1, maybe 2 a year. I think we're already up to 3 or 4 this year alone. We all need to protect ourselves. And skipping late breaks and lunches and going home with headaches is not being safe. You're more important than the mail. You're more important than their numbers. And it's their job that if you were coming back late and you're coming back so late that it's a problem with them, to send help to get you back when they need you back by. It's not your concern. You do your job the way you need to do it safely and professionally.
It's management's job to mismanage, not ours. You do what you got to do. Yeah. And you keep yourself safe. Because they don't give a shit about you. Yeah, thank you, Capone. I got a question for Mr. Michael from Class Male. You ready, baby?
Yep.
All right, so they got me coming in at 10 and working until around 3 p.m., right? Boss says I don't get any breaks. I usually run out of water and also get dizzy. I don't want to see my hours reduced though. So what would your advice be? Because yeah.
Well, first of all, I think we've explained a lot of things about getting dizzy, that you need to call 911 or inform management or drink a lot of water. I think we've explained a lot of that already. But I think what he's more worried about is being scared of management. Okay. You can't be scared of management. Um, that is where management's going to over abuse you. You know, it's just like any bullies, right? The bullies will keep on bullying you until you actually say something. Okay. Remember, most bullies are a bunch of chicken asses and when you fight back. Okay. So you have to fight back. Now, the reducing hours, there's ways to fight that. There is, first of all, they're supposed to schedule, you're a scheduled employee. So they're supposed to put the schedule the week before on Wednesday to let you know what you're working the coming up week. And if you have noticed that you're only working a few hours and less than anybody else, then that's something you can notify the steward saying you're getting disparaging treatment. Okay, that's showing every week in and out you get the least amount of hours. So you can actually show that you're getting the disparaging treatment and have the steward file that grievance. Okay. Secondly, reduce that when you to take any breaks. Again, it's a comfort steps. It's like Mallory explained is that in the M39, the comfort steps don't count against any time on the route, so you can take as many comfort steps as you want. Okay, again, that's where you have to inform management that you're going to take some more time. And if your route that you're on it takes more than 5 hours, and if you're still worried that management is going to reduce more time, then again, they're gonna still pick on you no matter what, trying to get at you, and they'll probably telling you that you're reducing the time, or they're doing that to you because they feel like you're the slowest carrier or something, or create some kind of reason. Okay, you can't allow that to happen. You got to let the steward know that, hey, I keep getting the least amount of hours in the office. So you have to inform the steward to notify that. And one of the things that I've always told anybody that's being picked on, being harassed, okay, is keep a journal. Keep a journal of everything that's going on. So on Monday, management did this to me. On Tuesday, management did this to me. So when steward is finally filing a grievance, they have a list of all the things that management has done to you. So you have to keep a journal. That's what I did, okay? When you keep a journal, you make copies of it, give it to your steward. That is your proof that you're not being treated properly. Okay. Just one of the best things is that I always say is do the SIA. Cover your ass. So you can say goodbye to management trying to bullshit you. Okay. So, but anyway, protect yourself. Don't get dizzy. If you get dizzy, make sure you notify management or whoever else. Call 911. If you're running out of water, maybe you need to bring more water. Okay. And you are allowed to take comfort steps. Go to 7-Eleven, whatever it is, get more water. Okay. So protect yourself. Your life is more important than management's stupid numbers. Okay. Protect yourself.
Yes, and thank you. And yeah, no, that's a good reminder for our CCAs to keep a little notepad on them. My manager was a dick at this time, at this day, because if it becomes chronic, we got rid of a really abusive manager at my station in my first year, and it was because I got all of the other CCAs to just start writing shit down. So Michael, that is, yeah, we should all be doing that anyway. That's brilliant.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that, Michael. Question I got for Mallory. This isn't a fear. They're all terrible questions, but this one is one of the worst. All right, Mallory, here we go. On Thursday, after completing my route in an hour piece in this crazy heat, I had a god-awful headache and I was just feeling sick. I got back to the station around 6:20-ish and was told to go help at a station 20 minutes away. I'm a CCA. I told the supervisor that I had a terrible headache and I was feeling ill and I could not go because I was going home. I was still sick on Friday, so I called in. On Saturday, I went to work and they said I needed a doctor's note. What? No one else has ever had to provide documentation, and there are people who call out all the time. What can I do here? I have spoke to my steward, and he basically says this is BS, but I wanted to get more info.
So I wish that this person was in here to give more information, because the question now becomes, was the supervisor aware that the sickness was related to heat, or did they take it as sickness? Because management is required to report heat illness incidents, and I believe the union is as well. The HIP states, before an employee who has been absent due to heat-related illness may return to work, management may request medical documentation clearing the employee to work. So management can require employees who have been absent due to illness, injury, outpatient medical procedure, or hospitalization to submit documentation as set forth in ELM 865.3 in order to clear their return to work when management has a reasonable belief, based on reliable and objective information, that the employee may not be able to perform the essential functions of their position, or they may pose a direct threat to the health or safety of themselves to others due to that medical condition. But the language in that is can and may, and that's specifically in relation to HIP. So if the manager wasn't aware that it was a heat-related illness, then they really don't have much standing, because then, so this is a CCA, they obviously do not have sick leave that they could have used, so they either took LWOP or annual leave for those absences. Should a carrier have used sick leave, the ELM 513.361 says, for employee absences of 3 consecutive days or less, supervisors may accept the employee's statement explaining the absence. Medical documentation or other acceptable evidence of incapacity for work or need to care for family member, or when the supervisor deems documentation desirable for the protection of the Postal Service interests. Again, the use of the word may. It's only for periods of 3 days or more that an employee is required to provide medical documentation, or if you're on restricted sick leave. But if you're on restricted sick leave, you should have already known you were on restricted sick leave. They're supposed to tell you, and it takes them like 6 months to get upper management to approve restricted sick leave. So your steward is essentially right. Screw the documentation, because as long as it was not truly a heat-related illness, they cannot force you to get documentation. You grieve, and if they do force you, if you really want to fuck with them, you can grieve it and then force the post office to pay for your copay that you were forced to incur. And as well as allege in the grievance that the rule is not enforced equitably per Article 16. And that can be supported by requesting copies of other people's PS Form 3971s who request sick leave and any corresponding doctor's notes related to the sick leave, and interview carriers and management asking if other carriers have had to put in doctor's notes after that. There is a NDOC that talks about medical documentation requests. There has been mixed efforts in arbitrations relating to management requiring medical documentation. The MDOC for that is M00873. Sometimes we win them, sometimes we don't. It depends on the circumstances. But in this situation, because no one else has to provide medical documentation, I think if management wanted to issue any kind of discipline, they would not have the grounds to do it, and the union would win the grievance.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that, Mallory. Next question I got is for Richie Ray, and here's the question from a carrier. If a carrier is experiencing heat-related illness while en route and cannot make it back to the station, they call 911 for transportation to the ER. Is this treated as on-the-job injury, or is the carrier responsible for time off medical bills? Because we have the greatest healthcare system in the world. So yes, this has actually come up in my office. Someone was nervous about this. So what's the answer, Richie?
On-the-job injury. On-the-job injury. Bottom line. Listen, we got e-comp for a reason. So that way you don't have to ask for a CA1 no more. There's no excuse for anyone to submit a CA1. Brothers and sisters, hear me clear, because I'm sick of this shit. Hear me clear. For any reason, heat-related or anything, you get injured. I don't care if you get a little cut on your pinky. Put in a CA1 and cover yourself. Do not be afraid. Okay? And to all the shop stewards out there, if management bullies anyone that puts in it for an injury claim, for a CA1, file that goddamn grievance immediately. File that grievance ASAP. Call for a special meeting with the postmaster. Put them on blast at that table. Do not let them get away with that. Let them know that any letter carrier that puts in the CA1 is going to be respected, just like the carrier that's going to go out with a bag of mail tomorrow. Bottom line, the bullying has got to stop. If you get, for any reason, you go out in an ambulance, I don't care what the reason is, you go out on a CA1. You do that on e-com.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Richie.
Fuck yeah, Richie.
Yeah.
Richie, I missed you, baby.
Miss you too,
all right,
brother.
I got the Bantam Rooster, Branch 41. Yeah. Another short king who picks fights with people a lot bigger than him. Like, I see you, Richie. I'm the same way. So I got one last question on this outline. And it's for Mr. Elliot.
I wanted to just ask you all to please fill out the initial heat injury report and send that in to me. At the bottom of the form, it has my address on it. The purpose of that is for me to track all heat injuries and to forward it to the business agent's office to make sure that they follow up, to make sure that a claim was filed so the employee doesn't get screwed. So this is right on that heat safety page in the box right above the ones that we went over tonight. So,
hell yeah, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Peralta. So I got a question for Mr. Elliot. If we get heat-related illness or dehydration, is that our insurance or workers' comp? I feel like that's kind of an extension of the last question.
I'm gonna
you're
say
smarter
this
than
straight
I am,
up.
so lay it on us.
I'm gonna say this straight up. Please, for love of God, call 911 if you're experiencing heat stroke, extreme dehydration, nausea, vertigo. It's okay to go to the fucking hospital. I can't tell you the number of people that are so scared to go to the hospital, scared to leave work. What, I'm going to have more work to do tomorrow. Fuck that shit. Your safety and health comes first. Please go to the fucking hospital. Now I got that off. If it occurs during regular working hours, it's pretty obvious. We know it's a CA1. Hey, it's an on-the-job injury. Of course it's a CA1. It's workman's comp. If you go home and then you start experiencing the symptoms, or you just realize like, hey, I'm getting nauseated, I'm dizzy, it can still be a CA1. It probably is still a CA1. You just have a little hurdle. You have to get the doctor to explain to the doctor, look, I was working outside for 8 hours. It's 100 degrees out there. I got home. I don't know how much time went by. An hour went by, and suddenly I just got hit with this. It's going to be a CA1. The doctor's going to be like, yeah, this is obviously related to work. In that situation, as soon as you get to the hospital and you start getting treatment, contact your supervisor and tell them like, hey, I just went to the hospital. It's a CA1. I'm filling my I'm going on to e-comp. I'm going to fill out my CA1. I'm just letting you know. That way you don't have any issues with that. So that's my answer.
All right. Thank you for that.
And for Greg, I yield the rest of my time.
All right. And our final question for this section right here. This is for Richie Ray, and this is the question. City Carrier reports heat-related illness to immediate supervisor. Leaves on an ambulance to the hospital. When calling out, does she use the on-the-job condition? Next question. Would it be considered a traumatic injury or occupational medical condition?
Traumatic injury, CA1.
Let me jump in on that.
Yeah,
there are times we've had carriers that have suffered through 2 and 3 days of the heat, and the cumulative effect takes them past the 1 tour of duty, so that becomes a pain in the ass CA2.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, so that's it for our questions that we have
Can I just ask a question since we got
sure,
Richie Ray and
because we're going to open up. Oh, by the way, if you want to open up for the audience, if you want to get on stack, just use the raise hand mode reaction, and we'll just take questions. So if you have them, just raise your hand or write stack in the bottom right, and we'll call on you in the order we see you. But go ahead.
Yeah, can I just ask a question to kind of kick that off based on what they were just talking about? So you're wet behind the ears, don't know their ass from their elbow. CCA isn't going to understand the difference between a fucking what is the difference between a traumatic injury and a conditional one? Because Manny just jumped in.
Let me use the example. Let me answer with the following example. On July the 23rd, let me finish. On July the 23rd of 2012, John Watzlawick returned to work after a 6-week absence. That's July 23rd, 2012. He came into the middle of a heat wave. He got his ass kicked all day long, called in, says he needed help, said he wasn't feeling well, went home that night, tried to recover. His wife says that he was listless, didn't want to do anything, and refused to go to the doctor. The next day he went to work. His supervisor was surprised that he showed up, given the way he looked the day before. Then he suffered a heat injury. Had he survived, that would have been a CA2 because it's cumulative over 2 tours of duty. He died the afternoon of the 24th, but that would have been a CA2, not a CA1. The key really is, and if you listen to Richie and what he said, make certain that if you are struggling with the heat, don't wait another day to report it. Report it immediately. Get a CA1 filed. Protect your ass and make it easier for you later.
Thank you so much. That was kind of the question for us super newbies. Thank you so much.
Simply a matter of sharing what's on my plate as the director of safety. I've always done it. I don't give a shit who is the audience, including the previous president. President Rolando, the one thing that he thanked me about is I didn't give a shit who I pissed off on this stuff. It's not a route that's out of adjustment or a little bit of unnecessary overtime. It's a death. Somebody's going to lose a brother or sister. Family's not going to see you coming home. So I've been pretty serious about this stuff from the beginning. So this opportunity to me is just a matter of sharing. And I want to thank you guys for the invite and for allowing me. Some of the messages here, I see Papa Smurf and all the Papa Peralta and stuff. And I just want to say thank you for listening to what I have to share. And as has been said, it dies right here if you don't pass it on. It dies right here if you don't read it, understand it, and breathe life into it. I have been a teacher for the NALC for 46 years. I started as a carrier in 1979 in Anaheim, and the most important thing we can do is teach people to do what we do. And the bottom line is everything we do, people either see it as a risk when you teach somebody else or an investment in the future, because that's what it should be. Don't be afraid of teaching everybody what you do and make the union stronger. So thank you for the invite. Thank you for the hospitality tonight. And don't give up on this union. Let's fix it.
Letter carriers say they've been working for more than 500 days without a contract, and today they made their voices heard on the streets of
USPS failed to protect Eugene Gates and others.
Can't take it no more.
Mail carrier robbed at gunpoint.
Police are targeting these mail carriers for their universal keys.
Nearly 1,200 reported attacks and other assaults on postal workers just last year alone.